Morning, it's 9 o'clock and we're going to open the morning session of the Klickitat County Board of County Commissioners meeting for April 16th, 2024. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you. Okay. So I would entertain a motion for the approval of the business agenda.
Is there anything else? Other meetings?
No.
Okay, Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve the business agenda with two add-ons, being the number one, the discussion in regards to the legislative priorities under new business, and the Commissioner's Town Hall meeting under miscellaneous. Oh, I'd take that back. The discussion on legislative priorities under miscellaneous reports as well, according to the blue card.
I will second that motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes for approval of the business agenda. So we're going to enter into public comment, and comment time is 3 minutes. After we work our way through, the commissioners will respond if they have comments. We'll start. If you're in the room, please come forward and state your name and where you're from for the record. And the same with Zoom. If we call on you, we'd like to hear your name and where you're from. So I think today we'll start. Is there anyone in the room that would like to come forward? So we could. Did you want to come forward yet, Lisa? No. Okay. Is it green?
Press on?
Yes.
Are we good? Okay. My name is Lisa Evans. I live in White Salmon. I am here this morning as the chairwoman of the Klickitat County Republicans. The Klickitat County Republicans collectively drafted and approved about 10 days ago a nonpartisan statement that was voluntary to sign. This petition represents the voice of approximately 261 people who cannot sit in this room this morning or call in. This petition is an expression of an opinion as protected by the First Amendment. I do have a copy of the petition here and the signatures for each one of you. It's not stapled because it's thick and my stapler wouldn't go through it. The last page of the signatures, I did include a screenshot of the petition that people saw online. So you can see that they could not submit a signature without their express consent. So all these names that are on this list, we did have their consent to be a part of this petition. The petition is as follows. We, the people of Klickitat County, demand from the county commissioners that any decision to close our jail be stopped immediately and to thoroughly evaluate all options to keep the jail open permanently, to respect the insight from the sheriff's office and the jail staff, decision-making transparency, public comment during the process, and to reach a balanced decision made according to the full impact on public safety. This decision impacts our community, our safety, and our jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll move to online. Good morning, WJ. Thank you.
Good morning, Board of County Commissioners, Klickitat County, Washington, and thank you. I once again refer your attention to the June 7th, 2023 letter, Kaplan Kirsch Walkwell to Peter Doyle from attorney Stephen L. Ossett in Denver, Colorado, to the FAA regarding the Columbia Gorge Regional Airport well contract between you, Board of County Commissioners successors, myself, Dallas-Fort Water District Commissioners, and the City of the Dalles and successors. We are now going on 14 years of this unfinished business. Mr. Ossett clearly delineated that every article and word in this contract is valid and enforceable. And I ask that this 14-year-old unfinished business be acted on today. Klickitat County is in a budget crisis situation. All because the Dallasport Water District water rights have not currently been transferred to our wells so that we can continue to pump water not only for the Columbia Gorge Regional Airport, the Columbia Gorge Regional Airport's water and fire flow, and begin building homes of appreciable value on the Dallasport Peninsula that would feed money into the tax coffers. My question to the commission today is just exactly how much longer are the tax-paying citizens of Klickitat County expected to wait for this business to be concluded? I appreciate your time this morning. It's nice to see everybody. And on a personal note, Dan, I hope you have a really good time on the cruise. And let me know how the food is, because I may have to take that cruise line the next time I have the opportunity to get out of town. Thank you, commissioners. Let's get to work.
Thank you, WJ. Back in the room, is there anyone else that would like to come forward this morning? So on Zoom, we have Gabrielle Gilbert.
Thank you. Songer's press release is the beginning of his smear campaign towards the commissioner's reputation. He will manipulate people to take his side and believe all of his fabricated stories that have no grounds in reality. He will send in his flying monkeys, his most obedient supporters, to do his dirty work in continuing the smear campaign. Sheriff Songer points out actions of others and calls them names, and it really are the things that he does and his own insecurities and faults he is projecting. The smear campaign against the commissioners is to protect his image, to maintain his control, to appear like the victim, to get revenge, and to accomplish the goal of avoiding accountability when it comes to his leadership. Let me be abundantly clear. There are over 11,000 people that voted in the last elections, the reason that our commissioners sit on that board. And we are not going anywhere in support of our board so that it can govern this county. And any attempts of smear campaigns, the ones that have already been initiated over the months against one particular commissioner, and the new ones that are coming, there are also people who support the commissioners, support that you do something about the heinous treatment of Native Americans in your jail, and to address the problems, to address that you pay your bills when it comes to local hospitals that rely on those payments to keep functioning for the safety of the community, that you address the problems in the jail in a meaningful way so that those victims are honored and those victims have that care that they should have always had. And you deal with the issues of this county when people manipulate their love of the Constitution, but are quick to use it for toilet paper. So start addressing the real issues of this county and let the people that we put in place and voted for do their job. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gab. So back in the room, come forward, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Here and I reside in Goldenville. And I just would like to say kind of just a little short statement from my heart. I'm just hoping that maybe we can take this very hard situation and come together possibly. And I know lots of things happened that were difficult and I probably don't even know every little detail, but I'm hoping that possibly we can maybe come together. I believe the majority of the people have spoken to keep our jail. And I'm just hoping and praying for the very best for all of us in Klickitat County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vern from Lyle, Washington.
Hi, good morning. My name is Vern Harple. I live in Lyle. And I'm here just to express my support for the good work that the county commissioners, along with the sheriff, are all doing to resolve the issue with the jail. I come to you today with the perspective of being the Norcor medical director from 2015 to 2020, and have a lot of experience with trying to take care of inmates. From my perspective, the care of inmates in my 50 years of being a physician is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to do. We're taking folks that are morally ill, physically ill, mentally ill, drug addicted, putting them all in one spot, and then trying to get some correctional officers to sort it all out. It's just an impossible task. But my experience with being the supervisor for the medical care at Norcor showed that they can do that job and do it really well with the combined resources of many counties. I absolutely agree with Sheriff Songer that the state and federal government are not providing the proper resources to take care of inmates anymore. The Andy Griffith Mayberry jail is just a thing of the past. These are incredibly sick folks, super high risk to themselves, to the county, and it needs expertise. We can't. Norcor is administered by the various counties, and Klickitat County could become one of the administrators of it. I think that you could sign on, perhaps. I'll leave all of the regulations and rules to you, but I just wanted to. It's a task that needs to happen. There are certainly there's disagreements about the process, but I'm just so proud of what Norcor does. I think it's the right thing for you guys to continue to start working with them. And I'd like to offer my help as a person who's been experienced with Norcor's medical care delivery to assist you guys in any way. Thanks.
Thank you, Vern. So back in the room, do we have anybody else that would like to comment this morning? Everybody's quiet here today. Luke Throop. Are you with us, Luke? Is he muted?
He has himself muted.
Luke, can you unmute yourself?
Unmuted. Can you hear me, commissioners?
There you go. Thank
Luke
you.
Throop, Goldendale, Washington. Commissioners, thank you for being here and enduring the heat during this difficult, this challenging situation. I want to just comment real quick. I have a quick question, but first I want to comment that there are certain activists within the community who have been relentlessly harassing the sheriff to push their personal anti-police agenda. Please do not let their manipulative pleas create a disproportionate impact on your perspectives on the situation. Please listen to the heartfelt pleas and the clear majority of citizens in the county who would like to keep the Klickitat County Jail open, if at all possible. So that's my comment there. My question to the board this morning is this: could you please, for the record, explain to the public the thought process? Why was the town hall canceled? Some people are seeing that as an evasion, and I'd just like to have a clear explanation from you guys personally.
Thank you. You have a little more time left. Otherwise, we've recorded your question. Thank you. So back in the room. Okay, is there anyone else online this morning? Sherry? 7211.
Greg Wagner with C.
Thank you.
I can answer Luke Stroop's question. I received a email this morning from Alicia Grumbles, the clerk, and the reason the town hall was canceled, it was because Mr. Stroop announced on his show that it would be about the sheriff and the jail. So they're blaming you, Luke, for the cancellation of the town hall. Now, this board has always stated they are a board of 3, and the board always makes the decision. I want to know why last week, when Mr. Anderson stated the commissioners have no oversight over the code compliance officer, was that a board decision? Because I never heard this board ever discuss that. Isn't Mr. Van Cleves the code compliance officer's direct supervisor? And as that director, he reports to this board of county commissioners. So you do have oversight over the code compliance officer. I'd like to know you, Mr. Van Cleves, sitting back there in the corner. Would you direct your code compliance officer to investigate Anderson's 2 code complaints? These are building code violations. They don't need a short-term rental ordinance to be investigated. Will you step up and do your job, Mr. Van Cleves, or will you continue to hide in the corner? You know, this has got to stop. This so-called leader, Anderson's supposed to follow all our county codes and all our rules and all our trusted processes, all the processes we hear Anderson tell everybody we're supposed to trust. See, he is not a leader. He shouldn't be acting like this. I want to know why this board on their agenda is going to have a consent agenda about this agreement for a franchise agreement with Cypress Creek Renewable when we have a county ordinance 112123 that prohibits large-scale solar in the townships where this agreement, this franchise agreement, is about to occur for their power line. Why would this board even consider reviewing or even commenting or have any discussion on a franchise agreement when it's in the prohibited area? You'll be going against you'll be violating your own county code, your own ordinance if you sign this franchise agreement. So why are you even considering it? Why would you even put it on the consent agenda? It needs to be removed from the consent agenda, or you'll just violate your own county codes. But we've come to expect that out of our commissioners because we've seen it happen many times in the past. We saw it happen with the franchise agreement for Avangrid. All the citizens said not to sign it. You turned around and ignored the citizens, signed it anyway. That's how this board operates. That's how the past board operates. You don't represent the people. You've forgotten who you're paid public servants to represent the citizens instead of the corporations or your own personal needs like Mr. Anderson does. He makes up rules to protect himself. You need to start following the rules, Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Back in the room. We don't have a lot of visitors today. Back online, Luke, we don't offer a second time around. I'm sorry. So we moved to Sherry BoCC.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. You know how I like to follow up from previous week's discussions that I never get my answers to. Which my one question keeps being, are you a political, is Klickitat County or whatever your name is, a political subdivision or a municipal corporation, or C, both? Like the RFA out here, they're both. They're 2 legal entities in one, looking for a DBA to do their business. So anyway, I'd like to finally hear which one you are as you're operating under what rules or organic rules or whatever you guys are, because you certainly don't work for the people because we speak and you don't do what we ask you to do. It's been proven time and time again, including the financial waste with the lawsuit of Under Canvas because the county wants to put something somewhere that will kill our people and we don't want to be killed. but you continue to spend our money on that. And also back to last week, when I asked, quite frankly, what powers this board runs under the separation of powers, which, you know, I don't know much of because I didn't have a lot of schooling on it, but I'm led to believe from what I read, there's legislative, executive, and a judicial. And I like rules. And that was a rule that you guys took an oath to follow that rule book. So I just wanted to know the rules. And what rules are you guys to play by according to that rule book that you took an oath to? And then I'm told that you're all three powers. Really? How's that a thing? How is that a thing? Like, that is a dictatorship, tyrannical. You can't be all three. And the reason I asked of how you operate, where you derive your authority from that rule book, the Constitution, you know, I was wanting to know how you could make decisions for the sheriff's department and under what authority do you derive those powers? But apparently you have all three powers. It's magical. And, you know, I don't think we should wipe our butt with the Constitution like toilet paper, like somebody else said. If there's rules, let's do it. You know, let's play by them. But if we don't know who you are or what you're operating under or what rules, or if you're operating under corporational rules of your own bylaws and charters, well, we need to know that. So us as members or shareholders or whatever we are, we can make decisions that are best for ourselves. And maybe if you ever are operating as a government subdivision, maybe there will be accountability for decisions you make that hurt people, because we should do no harm, you know. And I question about jurisdiction and sending Washington state people to Oregon. Is there going to be an issue with that for those inmates? So it's kind of weird you opened up this bee's nest, and I don't know your agenda, but there's obviously an agenda, and you can't be all three.
Thank you, Sherry. Back in the room. No new visitors yet, so I will assume we'll go back online. Is there anyone else online this morning? Just raise your hand if you'd like to speak. 2662.
Good morning, commissioners. This is Tracy in Lyle. And I am asking today to get some understanding on the emergency proclamations. So Jeff King requested an emergency proclamation for the January 10th through the 21st, I believe, storm this year, 2024. And it wasn't, and then he asked for an extension after the storm. And he said something about communications. And then it wasn't ended until just a couple weeks ago, which was a couple months after the storm. My question to you is why was that extended? What communications were not working to the point that we had to have a proclamation? Maybe you could even describe your thoughts on what a proclamation is and what it does. What I understand it to do by reading the basic CEMP plan, and I will read verbatim, and it says, if I can find this darn thing again, that, oh, I can't find it again. Okay. Anyway, but it basically it says that the emergency has taken over all the local, okay, here it is right here. Okay. That when a disaster occurs, that the resources can't meet the needs of a disaster, additional assistance may be requested through the ECC. And it says if the situation exceeds or is anticipated to exceed the capabilities of the Klickitat County, the chair may request assistance for the governor, and it's ongoing. So what was a local proclamation of emergency is a legal instrument that authorizes extraordinary measures to solve disaster-related problems. A proclamation allows for the emergency use of resources without regard to the time-consuming procedures and formalities prescribed by law, and active extraordinary measures as outlined by this plan. It is Klickitat County's policy and state law authorizes the chair, in absence of the chair, the vice president, to claim a proclamation of emergency. I guess my time is up, but please explain what the emergency was and how it, why it needed to be extended and why it lasted 2 months. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. No one in the room. Online. Oh, we do. Okay, I'm sorry. I looked away just as you raised your hand. We're not scary. Just come forward. Thank you.
I'm gonna try not to embarrass myself too much, but I have that gift.
No, we all do.
I have lived in the county for a long time. I've worked for a lot of department heads, judges, prosecuting attorneys, principals. I've seen people under pressure a lot. I'm going to speak a little. I just want to ask you how you want to be remembered.
Can you do me one favor? Can you state your name and where you're
Oh,
from?
I'm so sorry. My
I
name's Jenny Burney.
just wanted in the
I live
record.
in Goldendale. I'm old.
No, you're not.
I'm going to give you a little, because I thought this was really interesting. 2 weeks ago, when we were here, it was a full packed house and it stirred a lot of emotions in me and others as well, who remember a lot of people that were county commissioners, that were elected officials and department heads. And I worked in the courthouse for 26 years. And I just want you to be in remembrance of some of these things that are important. And this is, and bear with me, I'm really apologize for this, but I'm going to give you a little sheriff history. Klickitat County Sheriff history started in 1867. The first functioning sheriff was August Schuster. Many of us are very familiar with the name Schuster, been a family here for a long time. Prior to 1950, most law enforcement traveling the county was done on horseback, and automobiles became practical weather-wise by 1920. Skipping to 1950, Sheriff Kaiser had 3 deputies to cover the county, a new Sheriff Kaiser, plus a night jailer and a day matron clerk. In 1955, a relief part-time deputy was authorized. After traumatic times in the 1960s, by removal of a sheriff from office for malfeasance and political battles, a second state patrolman had been assigned to the county in 1965, but the sheriff department remained understaffed and low budget until 1974. In that year, Sheriff Rich Williams took office and immediately started upgrading 3 new deputies on board. Little county commissioner history.
I am sorry, Jenny. The bell rang.
I just want you, oh, okay, bottom line, I want you to know that you are sowing a legacy, that I remember these people and we in the county will remember you. Do you want us to remember you favorably or not favorably? It's a big responsibility. And we want you to represent us. We want you to fight for us. Corrections officers want you to fight for them. I want you to fight for us.
I have to be fair, and I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online this morning? Nobody? One last time in the room? Nobody else? So I'll ask Zoom one more time and then we'll move to the commissioners. Okay, seeing no one, I'll allow commissioner time for answers. Are you first this week, Dan? You keep track of it, I don't. Okay. Okay, Mr. Anderson.
Let me
All right, are you ready?
Get everything ready. Mr. Morris, you asked the question, how long will taxpayers wait for this business to be concluded? I would remind you that the document that you are reading from is a move that this Board of County Commissioners, along with the city, took to hire outside legal counsel with the consent of Prosecutor Cannell, and that is a not cheap. That is exceedingly expensive outside legal counsel in order to find a resolution to the water right issues with the airport. We have been waiting for a response from the FAA for quite some time, which we expected. There was turnover, is what I understand. And as soon as we get a response from the FAA, we will be moving forward. This board is committed to doing that. That is why we committed to the dollars being expended on that attorney. Mr. Throop, please explain to the public why the town hall was canceled. I will leave that to Commissioner Zoller. I had no prior knowledge that it was going to be canceled. I got an email just like everyone else. Vern, thank you for your comments. You're always so thoughtful. What I appreciate most is that you have experience and you offered to help and assist in any way. I find that is the most important thing that we can find from the public. And that is that we get comments, we get emails constantly. Everybody has an opinion. Few people actually offer to help find solutions. So thank you very much for that, Vern. I've always appreciated your experience and your knowledge in the past. Ms. Bosque, your question, how do we operate? We operate under Chapter RCW 3632 that governs county commissioners. Yes, you are correct. We are pretty much the only place in government where you find executive and legislative authority wrapped into one. What you've seen in many counties throughout Washington state is they end up hiring a county administrator who assumes many of the executive functions of government. Here in this county, we had an executor at one point. It did not last very long. And we went back to, and this is prior to my time or anyone on this board's time, that the Board of County Commissioners act as the executive authority of the county. And we don't have the funds for an administrator. Administrators are very expensive. And it is something that we have not discussed moving towards. It is a possibility. But we also have, as you say, the judicial side. It is very limited in scope. It is quasi-judicial, and it is decisions that we make as, in essence, a judge. And that has different rules that we play by. But most of our time is spent in setting policy and goals and changing the county code, and that is our legislative authority. Even most cities don't even have the same powers. For example, in the city of White Salmon, I believe the city of Goldendale, the mayors are the executives, while the council is the legislative body, and there is that separation of powers. Tracy, why did we keep the emergency proclamation in order for so long, and why did we extend it? And the answer is money, like so many things come down to. It was a request by the school districts to keep it open so that the school districts could continue to assess the damages, as well as the county assessing the damages. So if those damages reach a certain level, we can get state and federal assistance to help pay for them. If we can get that assistance, it doesn't come out of the county general fund or the school's general funds. And thus we will have a little bit of leeway when it comes to it. You can see our bills and the cost to just the 911 system and the emergency management system is of the tens of thousands of dollars. So any chance we can get for state help to pay for that, that is why we left that open for so long. Jenny, thank you so much for your history. I appreciate it. I know there's more to it. Could you please send all of that history in an email to BoCC@klickitatcounty.org? You ask a really great question. How do we want to be remembered? I can tell you that no one sitting up here does this for the money. Nobody takes the personal comments, the characterizations, the heat per se for the dollars and cents. We do it because we care about our community. We do it because it's what our duty has called us to do to try to make this county a better place. And in terms of favorably or not favorably, I can tell you from trying to stand in the middle, which we do, we don't represent one party, we don't represent one organization, we represent the citizens. Our job is to be in the middle. And half of us, on day one, we were making decisions that angered half of the constituency. And on day 25, we made decisions that angered the other half of the constituency. We are the ones that are in the middle, that are always taking the heat. And we do that because we care, and we still show up, and we still continue to do the job because we care. Which goes back to the comments that Ms. Gifford commented. Ms. Gifford, thank you for your comments. I would ask you to always please continue what you preach. Thank you for the comments about the negative things that and personal things that get said about us. I would ask you in the future to try to do your best when you're talking about other electeds as well, to keep it civil. We are dealing with things of the utmost importance in this county. We need to remain civil, and we need to remain to talk about the issues, not about the people, not about how we feel about the people. We have enough time staying up at night thinking about all of the issues that we have to deal with than worrying about people's personal attacks, either on us, our seatmates, or on other electeds. Let's all try to remain civil as we move forward, because we all have to work together, whether we like each other or not. And I'll leave it for everyone else.
Okay.
Thank you. To Ms. Evans, on your petition, I read it. I signed it. So yes, I read it, and I did find it very nonpartisan. All it was asking for was sound decision making using wise data, facts, keep the politics and the emotion out of it, and asking for transparency, which is all I want. I think that's all the public wants. Keep the politics to the side. Let's look at the data. Let's discuss it. Let's come up with a good decision, and then, we go from there. So thank you for that. Mr. Morris with the airport well, when are we going to, how long we have to wait for an answer? That is a very good question, sir, and I wish I had an answer to the question for you. I don't. We talk about this, me and you talk about this on a regular, so you're aware of where I am on it. Mr. Vern, I just want to say thank you, sir. You are a gentleman and a scholar, and I appreciate your comments every time you make them, and I will support what Commissioner Anderson said about you. Mr. Throop explained the process on why the town hall was canceled. I don't know. I'm hoping the chair will address that. The only thing I do know about the town hall, and I will try to explain it as nicely as I can. Commissioner Anderson had the first town hall that he wanted to do on a Facebook Live. We couldn't get Facebook Live working, so it was a Zoom town hall. I was in charge of the second town hall that was supposed to be a face-to-face. Citizens asking questions, commissioners responding, citizen getting a follow-up, commissioners responding. Last Tuesday, the board saw fit that they wanted to go a different direction. They removed my oversight, management, whatever you want to call it, from that town hall and gave it to the chair. That's the last I know about it until it was canceled. So hopefully there will be an explanation there. Mr. Wagner, was it a board discussion
to direct code compliance. No, it wasn't, sir. Sherry, separation of powers. Once again, I'm gonna agree with Mr. Anderson. He pretty much said it right. Very rarely do we ever have the judicial power when we're doing a public hearing. And it's a very limited power, but yes, it's there, and that's all in state law, and every county operates that way. And if you would like to see that change, I would suggest contacting your legislature. Tracy and Lyle, emergency proclamation. I have nothing more to add. Commissioner Anderson pretty much hit the nail on the head. Jenny, how do we want to be remembered? What a wonderful question. A question I ask myself all the time. Hopefully, whether I serve one term or more terms, I will be remembered for honesty. Always telling you the truth, even if it's the hard truth that's going to piss you off when I tell it to you. Hopefully it's the fact that every vote I make, I think about not what I want to do, but what you all would want me to do. Because I look at this job as a citizen representative. I'm not here to push my agenda. I'm not here to push whether I want a Walmart built or don't want a Walmart built or whatever else. I think of everything on what would you think? What would you want? Would you want to pay taxes on that or not? And that's what I base my decisions on. So as long as I can continue to keep the moral and ethical high ground, as long as I can continue to keep honesty, I will continue to sit in this chair. If I feel honesty or my morals or ethics are being not so good, I will resign that day because it isn't working. So yeah, I guess I would say I hope the people understand they have someone that's actually fighting for them, listening to them and answering their questions when and wherever they want their questions answered. Open and transparency. And with that, that's all I have.
Thank you. I'll start with the simple ones. Sherry, we've discussed the responsibilities and the duties of the county commissioners. There are a lot of things online that you can research at the state about us, including the RCWs that was given to you by Mr. Anderson. I would also suggest that you reach out to the Secretary of State to ask those questions. That's a great place to find information about how corporations are formed and what they are and what we function under. Tracy, I think I agree with Mr. Anderson's answer that he gave you about the extension. That's exactly what happened. And Jenny, I look forward to you sending us those documents. I'm sorry the time was short and you were cut off. I look forward to it. I can tell you in regards to what's happening with the sheriff situation, this has been an ongoing discussion between the commissioners in public session, in executive session, especially starting with budget issues over the past few years. Even before I was here, there were some of those discussions and concerns because of our oversight on the budget. And we've been working through those, trying to correct that ship. Add to that we inherited some very serious litigation and potential litigation that could cause incredible damage to this county as a whole. And we have to take that under consideration of what that's doing as a whole, not targeting the sheriff, not looking at it. It's just flat out what it is. Whether it was any other department, we would have to take a look at it. We did put together conversations in a task force prior to this becoming public. Part of the reason to do that was privacy for the employees, the unions, privacy because of litigation issues, not wanting to add to the steamroller that's coming towards us. And Jenny, your question about how do we want to be remembered is exactly what I asked myself before I entered into this. This is incredibly serious impactful situations that are happening to our county. And as a seated county commissioner, I came into this well known that I'm who I am. And this is what I bring. And I was elected to this seat, and I've dedicated myself to walk through that with that attitude. That's who I am. And I thought about that situation. If I walked away from this, if I ignored the loaded freight train coming near us or straight at us, and I did when I started learning about these things, I did talk to someone and get advice from them within our county and said, I feel like I'm standing on a train track with a freight train barreling toward me with the light on. And we have to decide what we can do as county commissioners. And I jumped into the situation and said, we have to do this. And as chair, I took the brunt. As chair, I'm still taking the brunt, but I haven't wavered from, we have to work our way through this, because I don't want to get out of this position and be on the street and be known as the one that did nothing. We can't get out of this. We didn't ask for this, we inherited it. It came to us as commissioners to be responsible people and work our way through the situation. To address the petition, I have to say I have had calls about the petition, and there is buyer's remorse, because just like I spoke to Lisa, how disappointed I was because her and I had developed what I felt like was a good working relationship. I was never asked the other side of this. I was never asked, what documentation do you have? What are you working on? When was the task force formed? How are we working through this situation? My answer to that is, we're working through this situation with all due consideration we can for everybody who's involved. And we have a lot of partners in that we have to consider. We serve the cities, we serve State Patrol, we serve DOC. Those are all combined efforts that are being engaged and talked about. How does this look for you and what works for you? On top of that, financial considerations go into that packet. And until we have that final packet where we feel like we're done fact finding, I don't like the word investigating, Sheriff Songer, the fact finding, we can't make any decision. We can't move forward and make a qualified decision until we have that done. But I hope you'll allow us the space and our staff the space to continue with that work. Thank you for the petition. But as I said, I've had calls from people that were upset that they didn't hear the other side of the story before they signed this. And I wish you would have asked. Tiana, thank you. I agree for all sides. And thank you for praying for our county. It needs it. I appreciate it. Vern, you're awesome. You always are awesome. You're always helpful. You're always there working for the county and your community, and I appreciate you. And I'm sorry I've not been back around, but we have a lot of issues to work on in Lyle that I still think about, the boat ramp and other issues, but my plate has been full, so I haven't gotten back to those. Mr. Wagner, you and I have been communicating about some issues. I'm still reading some of the things you've sent me. I'll reach out for some legal. I'll try to formulate my decision on that and get back to you, but I have to point something out. We continually every week, and I'm going to get bashed for this, that, oh, somehow I magically support Jake, but this is just me as a commissioner. If there is one illegal STR in the county that you say they haven't gone through code of compliance, then we have 350 to 500 STRs that are also illegal. So let's start including those in the bunch. If we're going to claim that Mr. Anderson needs a CUP, then so do every other one of them. So we'll continue researching that, you and I, Mr. Wagner, and come to a conclusion on that and try to find a way to go forward out of that situation as well. And Mr. Throop, yes, your announcements on the radio that skewed what the town hall meeting was. We had months of conversations, in fact, conversations back even maybe a year ago, that these two commissioners would have liked to have town halls. I wasn't so in opposition or in support, because in the past I've seen town halls become problematic for the commissioners, staff time, staff money, being able to connect to Zoom and other sources in other buildings or other venues. So it's been a discussion of how do we actually formulate these town halls to give better service to the community? And I understand those. We have communities that are a long ways out, Glenwood, Trout Lake. They can't all just show up for our meetings, and during the day they can't be on Zoom. So I do support town halls for information, but the logistics of them are very tough. So it wasn't a new idea. So coming into this year, Commissioner Anderson and Commissioner Christopher did want town halls. They decided on their different way of presentations. We worked our way through the bumpy trial of the Facebook Live, and it turned out fairly well. We had a lot of participants, and we were moving towards Mr. Christopher's in person. I have to disagree with his statement that the control of that meeting was taken away from him and given to me. I believe if you check the video from last week, the chair ended up being the facilitator for the meeting. I did not feel, and I stated that because the meeting, 2 previous meetings we've had in regards to the sheriff's office have overtaken our meetings, interceded our meetings, stopped the work that we do, and we move through politely to let everyone speak in a very heated manner. A heated manner that, in my mind, went over the top. It was not civil discourse, and it was very threatening and upsetting to some people in the room as well as staff. So as we moved towards that town hall, when I found I was going to have to facilitate, I felt if it was heated again, there would be no way for me to participate. I'd be controlling a meeting. I wouldn't be able to answer questions or take notes. So I asked that the commissioners agree that we have someone facilitate, not mediate, but actually facilitate. And it was agreed, and so I reached out to find a facilitator. I was in office every day last week. I did not see Mr. Christopher again. So when Friday came, I had had emails of concern about being able to speak because they felt like they'd be shouted down. Because that meeting had been put on the local radios by Luke Throop stating it was the sheriff's town hall. That hijacked our meeting, the meeting that had been planned for quite a few months as the Klickitat County Commissioners Town Hall to allow citizens countywide to bring in their issues. Then as we set up to set the meeting up, it was duly noted that there were some public and some staff that seriously did not want to be in the room with that situation again. It did cause fear and concern, and that those were brought to me. So I did reach out for consultation with human resources and some other sources that we have to talk about what those, what that felt like for people, where they wanted to go with this. And as a chair, the RCW allows me to close a meeting. We posted the RCW. Mr. Christopher received that RCW that I have the latitude to pull a meeting, especially in charge of public health and safety. And that's where the concerns were. And also the misinformation that was touted by Mr. Throop. From the first time that those were promoted, I did reach out to the radio station, and the radio station did remove that statement from the radio. But by then the damage had been done, and we were facing probably an onslaught and a room full of angry people again, with a few people that had their town hall that they were looking forward to. So we pulled the meeting and posted that we would be reconstituting the commissioner's town hall and offer that again in the future. And that's what happened with the meeting. Gabby, thank you again for always checking in on our county, and I appreciate your comments and your involvement always. So moving forward, I think we'll move to.
Solar, if you'll let me know how many people have buyer's remorse, then I can correct my numbers so I'm reporting.
I'll reach out to
I
you.
don't need to know their names, but if you'll let me know the number that reached out.
I will. I'll send that to you on an email, Lisa. Thank you. Okay. So,
Madam Chair, before we move to consent agenda, I would like to add one more item to the business agenda. I would like to add discussion over the jail, as your statement has brought three questions I would like answered so that I can be informed on what you know about the jail. And I fear I won't be able to answer those questions if I don't put the item on the agenda. I'll be ruled out of order.
unfinished business?
Fine with me?
Okay.
Since we're adding items to the agenda, I'd also like to add under Commissioners Miscellaneous Reports, the Hood River Bridge update, as well as litigation, not our litigation, thank goodness, on the Western Gray School
Okay,
for
thank
discussion.
you.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion that we make an amendment to our business agenda for today. Adding on discussion of Hood River Bridge and litigation on Western Gray Squirrel under miscellaneous reports, which is before lunch, and adding jail discussion. Technically, we could, when we can fit it in, how about that? Because I think we might have plenty of time before lunch and no sense waiting until after if we're weighed in before lunch. So if we can get it in before lunch, great. If we can't, if we won't, miscellaneous, and that is my motion.
Okay.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Other
All
than
those in
saying thank
favor?
you. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
Did you ask for it?
Yes.
Oh, you did. I didn't even
Yeah.
hear it.
Do what? What did I miss?
All those in favor?
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't hear
And
it.
Well,
he
she
just ran me over.
Well, she
It's
was on
fine.
the discussion part, and I want to say thank you, and then she asked, so it was kind of a mumble
okay.
there by me trying to throw. in
Because I
a
know
thank you.
last week I did it. I just said aye.
Yeah. So payroll warrant and certification.
Madam Chair, I move that we pay the accounts payable warrants in the amount of $991,087.79 and the payroll benefit warrants in the amount of $818,978.91 for the date ending April 15th, 2024.
I will second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Ouch.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes.
Okay,
So-
Madam Chair, I have one other thing that I forgot to mention since we didn't have the minutes. I need to put on the record, there was an email from a Bob Yostel that sent to all three of us.
Mhm.
And then Commissioner Christopher responded to Bob, and then Bob responded to all three of us again, but I had also responded to Bob as well. So I want to enter that into the record, all of that information, so that no one can accuse us of an Open Public Meetings Act violation. I did not hit reply all, just for the record.
Well, let me take a quick look. I don't recall seeing anything from you in there, so.
No, but the fact that I responded to Bob with your information on there, that's why I wanted to be side on the.
And I don't think I responded with his
Yeah,
information. I
all of
think
the
I
emails
forwarded
from
it.
Bob does not have any of your information
No,
on it
but
to
the
me.
one I
But-
So, right, I
responded
get
was
it. Right,
yours.
right. Okay, good. I have no issues, and I appreciate the transparency.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda with 14 items.
I would second. Sorry, I cannot second it. Because there's an item I don't want to vote yes on.
Okay,
Do you want to
I
let that
will-
motion die for a second?
I
And
will,
then,
I will rescind my motion.
Okay.
And what number would you like? Paul?
thank you. I would like to pull consent agenda item number 2, which is the county working on building a dam in Benton County
Okay.
for separate discussion, and then the rest of them, I'm happy to vote yes on.
You don't have an issue with number 4?
Or no, I don't.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Would you like to make the motion? then?
I am intrigued to read that document when it is presented to us. So, do you want to make the motion? You want me to do so?
Go ahead.
Okay. Madam Chair, I move that we pass the consent agenda with 13 items, noting that we're pulling item number two for separate consideration.
I will second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes, I would just like for the record, item number 4 that I mentioned was the notice of a public hearing to be held in the Commissioners' Chambers Tuesday, May 7th at 1 o'clock for the consideration of the proposed franchise agreement between Klickitat County and Carriage Solar LLC. Just for discussion, I would just like that to be noted that this is to hold the public hearing. This is not approval of it based on what public comment was.
Okay.
We are just setting the hearing, which absolutely should be on the consent agenda.
Right, and I would also add that at least and I don't believe any of us have actually seen the final document. So it will be included in that packet and we will get time to review it at that date. No further comment. Ready for,
Are we moving, just a question for clarification, are we moving number 2 to a different?
We'll take it up next.
waiting,
Okay.
number 2 is being pulled for
Okay.
about 3 seconds while we take a vote, and then there'll be another vote on number 2.
Okay. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, consent agenda passes with the removal of number 2.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to approve what was consent agenda item number 2, which is an amendment agreement number 5 between the State of Washington Department of Ecology and Natural Resources for the purpose of a time extension to negotiate changes to the scope and the Department of Ecology's budget regarding the Whistler Reservoir SEPA review project. You're going to have to step down and second it.
I'm going to have more conversation. Yeah, I'm going to let the motion die.
Would you like?
That's interesting. We need to get a.
Well, I'm not sure what to do because.
I get it.
Okay.
So why don't
I would suggest that
we have a department update comes really shortly, I believe, from Economic Development, who could give an update and an explanation to this. So let the motion die according to the minutes, and then hopefully staff will be able to give a full accounting and update of what this means. Would that work?
Do you have a time crunch on this? I mean, is there a date when this has to be signed and submitted if?
No, there's not. We're trying to get it signed as quickly as possible, commissioners, but.
That's good enough. Without bringing you to the mic, everybody else is going to be, I would agree with Commissioner Anderson. Let's table it. Have that department update and we can work from there on where we go from there.
Okay.
Well, in order to table it, someone would have to second it.
Well, true. Let's let it die then. Let's let it die a miserable death.
Okay.
Sorry, Richard.
Temporarily,
Yes.
maybe. You might get a second later.
So are we to department update?
Yep, agenda passed. Make a note that we're gonna re-examine number 2 later on your schedule at some point,
Okay,
and then you're good.
great. So we're going to move forward and re-examine number 2 at a later date and move into department update from Economic Development at this time but yeah, it's you. Richard Foster, thank you.
Why did we put economic development before public works, by the way? Or did we just think we'd be done with citizen comment at 9:30? I'm trying to figure out the logistics of our scheduling. Okay.
I gotta fly out today.
Oh,
Marine Corps Reserves.
well,
So, and thank you.
actually
for
there,
your
but
support.
yeah.
Thank you. So to begin with, we'll start with natural resources. Go ahead. Take it off.
Yeah, howdy commissioners. So I'll start with lead entity. Since our last update, we've put together 3, I think, solid projects for this year's grant round. We have a final design on the upper portion of what was the former Klickitat mill site, which is the log yard. Hopefully that will spiral into another project down the line. We have an acquisition of some acreage on, I want to say an upper middle portion of the Klickitat River. And then we have a furtherance of a restoration project on the far northern reaches of the Klickitat River, near the Howard Lake Road. Well, we fully expect to utilize our funding for this cycle, including some of the new riparian dollars. We're going to have a little spillover in Lower Columbia. I'm going to be talking to Steve Manlow from Lower Columbia about how we can try to preserve some of those dollars, trying to present some need, talking with our sponsors and projects that are going to be going on in the next couple cycles in the White Salmon area. Additionally, we had our second TC meeting last Thursday over in the Pioneer Center, and we'll be having our second CRC meeting this Thursday upstairs in the, one of the rooms.
CRC.
CRC, yeah, the Citizens Review Committee, sorry. That's just the, I guess you could say they're the real decision-making body when it comes to the funding, just concerned citizens who have some experience in a bunch of different professions that could comment on the projects that are being put forward by the sponsors. And then the technical committee are the experts, the hydrologists, fish biologists that evaluate the projects and their technical merits. I'll be attending site visits for some upcoming projects and some projects that our RTO representative, Kay Caramal, was unable to hit in the past couple cycles. She just got put in our area recently, so she wanted to go out and see some previous projects that I haven't seen myself either. So that would be next week. We're going to be doing site visits probably Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Thursday is our official site visit date where we'll be looking at these 3 projects for this grant rounds. And this will spiral into our ranking meetings in June. And in the meantime, I'll be trying to talk to our sponsors about any future projects and updating our lead entity strategy if that's something we find some need to do. I've been talking with other lead entities, and everything's really in our wheelhouse about what we really want for that lead entity strategy.
When was the last time our lead entity strategy was? So it's about due.
So yeah, it's about due. And then additionally, we're getting more representation in different lead entity organizations and forums throughout the state. We were represented at the 2024 Eastern Washington Riparian Planting Symposium in Wenatchee, where we connected with some corresponding lead entity folks in the Yakima Basin. It focused primarily on the new riparian dollars and also some unique features of Eastern Washington that sort of make it, I don't want to say difficult, but a little confusing and interesting when it comes to riparian planting and getting riparian projects with those riparian dollars. Additionally, the Klickitat lead entity also connected with some folks to, in the future, hopefully participate in policy discussions, focusing on representing Eastern Washington lead entities on the state level when it comes to these funding discussions. Additionally, we've also been well represented at the Washington Salmon Coalition, which is basically the state's lead entity organization. We've attended 4 meetings since February, standard and executive committee meetings. We've made some good connections with some other lead entities and some state level representatives, and they're very happy to see us there and see the Klickitat lead entity back in action. That's all I got on lead entity. Any questions?
No, very good and detailed. That was good. Thank you.
Yeah, for just jumping into this world, you're doing really well.
So I have 2 more things. The well monitoring program. So we've reached out to 58 well owners so far out of, I have a total of about 150 on file. We plan to monitor the sort of lower white salmon corridor this Wednesday and Friday. And then additionally, we'll be reaching out to the rest of the well owners shortly. We plan to finish by probably mid-May. And then, of course, we have well monitoring in the fall. And then in the future, after I've gotten my feet wet, I'm more than happy, doing outreach and expanding the program.
What does
over the
well
150.
monitoring entail? Do you show up and just take the well cap off, drop a water gauge down there, figure out where the static water level is?
I believe
Put it
so.
on a
I'll
chart.
figure out on Wednesday.
You'll figure it out. I got it. Good enough.
And then we have been contacted by the city of Goldendale to assist in updating of their comprehensive park and recreation plan. Right, and having a plan like that in place allows the city and all organizations who might then adopt it, such as the Central Klickitat Parks and Rec District, to apply for specific RCO grants to construct, renovate, and acquire land and facilities for recreational use. It's constructed by synthesizing the city's haves, which is their existing facilities and areas and those facilities and areas conditions, with the city's needs, which is determined through both public outreach and any long-range goals that the city or, any organizations in that area have. And we hope to have the plan ready for adoption and RCO review by probably the end of the year. And then that plan, assuming it's accepted by RCO, will last for 6 years until it'll need to be updated again. And hopefully that goes really well. And that's maybe something we can extend to any other entity in the county that might be interested in it. Any questions?
No, other than I'm thankful that you're on that because I've been trying to get that across the finish line for 2 years now. So maybe this moves it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you. Then economic development.
Good morning, commissioners. So the Klickitat mill site, the contract is back at Ecology waiting to be signed. We have been in contact with finance to get a new job cost set up in Fund 119. Once that's established, can we get a verbal to go out for RFQ on the project? You guys?
Yeah.
Okay. Department of Commerce, our grant writer program. We were awarded this grant to allow grant writer work to be done on the county's SEDS list. We will be contracting with McEd for that. And we will be presenting that at the next KC meeting, Columbia Gorge Regional Airport. We have submitted CDS requests with both Senator Murray and Senator Cantwell's offices, and a third will be sent off to Representative Newhouse as soon as the portals open for that. And these are going to be used for infrastructure. We also applied for and were awarded the Industrial Site Readiness Grant through Department of Commerce. That's going to be used for engineering and design work for the infrastructure portion. We have the Regional Innovation Hub through the Washington Department of Commerce as well, which is the ICAP program that was awarded to McEd and GTA. We had a meeting last week with the Department of Commerce where we discussed ways that the project would move forward because the funding is ending in May. And so we want to keep that momentum going. The goal of this cluster idea is to give our aerospace sector more opportunities for supply chain, export, and workforce retention. Affordable housing. Last month, the department gave a presentation to KC Executive Committee, and we summarized our statewide survey of how other counties are using their affordable housing dollars. The department made a recommendation to the executive committee on what a path forward might look like, and further discussion will be had at our next full KC meeting, which is this coming up Tuesday, the 23rd. Next Tuesday. Business retention and expansion. We have a new business in the Golden Dale incubator space. It's Jensen Fabrication. It employs 4 people, and that gives us a total of 2 businesses in the incubator space. The Evergreen Manufacturing Grant, we assisted in the application of this grant on behalf of an aerospace manufacturing company in the county. The company was awarded this grant to promote manufacturing and R&D jobs. Broadband. We're just continuing to follow the Department of Commerce and the broadband office updates. The challenge process was open today. So there's a portal for counties, cities to challenge the process, the speed. We also have Jean Patterson, who is a broadband action member. She started a broadband newsletter, and the first issue can be found on our county webpage under economic development. And then there's a broadband link, and that's just to help keep the community apprised of anything that's happening broadband wise. The Columbia Gorge Child Care Committee, they are doing more outreach, concentrating on connecting with local businesses via the Chamber of Commerce. And we will get an update at the next meeting, which is Monday, the 22nd. Any questions?
You've been busy.
Yeah.
Good job.
Okay, and now, so for commerce, just to give an update to the commissioners, recently, as was updated last time, Commerce had reached out. They initiated a rural community engagement process to assist the impacts of clean energy on rural communities in Washington, as directed by the 2023 Clean Energy Project Siting Law. So this was a State House Bill 1216. Commerce has contracted that out with Ross Strategic to assist them. And their partner Industrial Economics is preparing the economic analysis plan. They just did a simple survey with us. Those project findings are going to be coming out September 1st. So once those come out, I'll be tracking that and I'll make sure to send that out to all 3 county commissioners and anybody that wants it. So KC BoCC, we got a meeting next April 23rd. But we did switch out that Google invite from Chelsea's. So if you see it in your Google inbox, please accept that. And then for budget notes, we have 3 supplemental budgets for review. The first one that I've submitted, the first one is for the $6,725 for the ADO grant writer program that you'll see this year. The second one is for the lodging tax advisory committee that we discussed during our last budget update for $27,000. That should get us updated from the bleed over from previous years. And then the third one, which goes into my natural resource Swissler project, is the $200,000 for the integrated planning grant from Ecology. The $200,000 integrated planning grant from Ecology is that Klickitat mill site thing that we're talking about. We were going to put that through natural resources, but the job cost, it looks like it's because of the way it was filled out during this last spring, it needs to go through Fund 119, so economic development. So once that job cost is set up, we'll be able to move forward with that.
So it's going through economic development, not natural resources.
Yes.
And I believe that that's going to get changed in the actual supplemental, correct?
From my understanding, yes. I'm still working with all the relevant parties, you know, Jen, and they're assisting me with that. I'm still a bit new to the process. So, and then Swissler project, still working on the budget amendment to that. What was presented, which all we're discussing today, was the time amendment. What Ecology is requesting is that we extend their project by 6 months to June 30th of this year. Basically, that is for the big water reservoir project in Benton County. So the time element is the one presented today. The budget amendment is seeking an additional $200,000 from Ecology, basically for Aspect Consulting Group to do the work, to do an increase in scope, and also ensuring that they have a solid, what they call QAP, Quality Assurance Project Plan. The draft EIS for that project is expected to be completed by the middle of 2025. The increase in scope that has occurred over the last 20 years of this project kind of being alive is there's been, due to state law requirements, there's been an increase in basically like tribal consultation, archaeological surveys, and public comment period and public outreach. So that's increased that amount of scope, and that's where the majority of that funding is going. That's not going, that's basically going straight from Ecology to Aspect, that additional $200,000. So the time component that's presented today is basically to allow Ecology to expand what that, specifically what that number is going to, as far as where they're going to be at within that scope. And then as they finalize that, the budget amendment will be solidified for more specifically from Aspect Consulting, what they need to pay for. There's also going to be an update in their pay schedules, because the last time their pay schedules were updated for their work was 4 or 5 years ago, and there's been a natural increase in that. So there's a few different things within that budget.
Mr. Anderson.
So 2 questions. Number 1, what happens if we do not agree to the time extension? What happens to the contract? And the second question is a good portion of that $200,000 for the increase in the scope due to the comments received during scoping?
I would say, and hopefully I don't say this incorrectly, I would say that the increase in project are state, from my understanding, there's state requirements from bills that have been passed in the last 4 or 5 years. They're not due to the public comments that they've received so far. And so that there's been an increase in like the requirements for instance, for tribal consultation, that when the original scope was created, that we weren't, that ecology wasn't relegated to.
Okay.
And then what was the first question?
What happens if we don't grant the time extension?
So if we don't, oh man, if we don't do the time extension, I suspect we'll have to do a whole new contract, which is gonna push everything out further to the right, and that's gonna be up to the county commissioners whether or not we want to stay engaged in the project itself.
One more question, if I may. What is the actual county cost to the Swissler SEPA so far? County dollars?
County dollars, I would say they haven't, I mean, they've reimbursed all staff time. Typically, from a director perspective, it's $4,000 to $6,000. That's been reimbursed for, not for me. I think altogether is maybe $100, but under Director Dave McClure, previously in years past, is $4,000 to $6,000 that he would devote, that ecology would pay for. But as far as the Klickitat County, what we're paying for, we're not paying anything out of this $200,000. It's, everything's from ecology.
That's what I was looking
Yeah,
for.
this
Thank
is
you.
an ecology project. And one of the, and it should be noted that Benton County does not have a natural resources department. And originally when the project was created, we thought it was going to go into Klickitat County, which is why it's kind of, and it does have Klickitat County benefits, which is why we're engaged.
And do you recall what the percentage of the water was expected to be used in Klickitat County when it was originally designed? Since you read all those documents.
I haven't read all of them yet.
I would caution answering that because when they were here, I asked that question to ecology and they couldn't give me an answer. So yeah, I'm gonna hold you to it if you give me an answer.
Yeah, I haven't moved into Dave's office yet. I still need to review.
Oh, well, then I'll give you extra time.
Thank you.
So I wasn't here during the beginning of that project. It's been a lot of years. So who is the lead on that project?
So we're considered the lead.
Okay.
Klickitat County is considered the lead. And in previous, Benton County, this was like 6 months ago. Benton County commissioners had a discussion and I just asked them, do you all want to take, do you all want to take the lead on it? And they would, because they don't have a natural resources department, they still want us to be partners with them on this project and help this project come to fruition.
A little bit more history on that. Swissler Canyon is within WIRA 31 and WIRA 31 planning process went through the Klickitat County. We were the leads on it. And that is the reason why it was originally under us, because we did the planning for WIRA 31.
So just to be clear, as lead, are we asking for the extension or is ecology asking for us to approve this extension?
That's also a tough question. I would say we're asking for the extension, but it's coming from ecology.
I think it's both, because if the extension is not presented, it'll cost a lot more time, effort, and money to reconstitute an agreement. And you could potentially have to go back out for bid for a new person. Like right now, we have Aspect working, but if the contract is closed out, you've got all your closeout contracts and everything. If you want to reconstitute it, you've got to go through the whole process again. And then you might not have Aspect. You could have, who knows, who might bid on it. And it would be, you know, a year process, year and a half process.
Do you have questions?
Then that's it. That's all I got.
I would just like to say thank you to Richard and staff for going above and beyond. Thank you for all the calls and questions, trying to get ready for well monitoring. I'm really excited to start training tomorrow. I've been looking to get back out in the field for 3 years now. And so thank you. Chelsea, keep up the good work. You're doing amazing things.
Yeah, you guys are doing great.
And Richard, be safe on your trip, please.
I'll do my best. Yeah, who knows? Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, how do you feel about the time extension now? Would you like a motion or?
Do you have enough information?
Sorry, my opinion. Okay.
due to the relationship, I would almost like to hear from ecology and have more information. I'm still kind of vague about that project as a whole. So time extension and where it's going in the future and how long we're going to keep fronting this project and where it's going. I have serious questions about.
Are you, just, can I clarification, are you asking that you want to hold it over a week so that you can call ecology and talk to them? Or are you asking that you want to try to get ecology to come before this board and answer questions again?
I'm
before you
fine
make a
with
decision?
finding the
Okay.
correct contact and calling. I'm good with that. If we could hold it over a week, I would appreciate it.
We also had ecology down here and they gave us an update, and that should be in our recorded files, and I'm sure staff can find that day
Okay.
when they were here.
And
I
I can
don't
watch
know if
that
you were here
again.
that that day or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, they gave us a full update.
Okay. How long ago was that for staff to look for?
6 months-ish?
I was gonna say.
I don't know, it's all
4,
of
5,
our-
6 months. It should be in the minutes.
Probably it's been a year then.
Yeah,
As time
yeah.
goes.
Well, yeah, this
Okay.
year started like, yeah.
And I can talk to Richard and Keaton too to find out who
Okay.
my contact is there. But if you would give me that week, I'd appreciate it.
So would staff add it to the agenda for next week then, so that we can have a discussion at least?
And then I would also, I don't know, it's up to the chair, but maybe have that item as a separate agenda item already.
Yes, that's absolutely. We're not gonna put it
Okay.
on as this consent.
That works. Then we can share information
Separate
again.
consent agenda item, and that might help you move that along. One thing I did forget to bring up was we all received the letter for the third opioid settlement. I was hoping to get a quick talk in that today during unfinished or something, so I'll bring it up then, just to kind of give you my opinion on that.
Okay. I think we've lost, Public Works, I see. Seth, oh, there you are. You're sitting in the penalty box. Well, we'd love to have you come forward, even though we're late. Just taking over Rob's space now.
You can have a little of mine. You can have a little of mine. I'm
It should take 2 seconds.
Oh, great. Sorry, Casey. I should have noticed you weren't just sightseeing.
And really quick.
Yeah.
So the treasurer's office received a resignation and employees actually transferring to a different department.
Oh.
So that is causing an opening in their position, in their office. So we're looking for a verbal to post for the accounting admin 1, 2, or 3 position in the treasurer's office.
Great.
It's all budgeted and existing.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you, sir.
How many of those do they have? How many positions of that is on their org chart?
3, I think. So there's 4 boxes. 3 of them are accounting admin 1, 2, and 3, and then the other one is an accounting admin 1, 2, 3, or accountant.
Is there any lower org chart boxes than that one that we're discussing?
No, the accounting admin 1 would be.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Sure.
So I'm waiting.
We're ready anytime.
Go
you are.
ahead, Mr. Hunter.
Okay. You passed the consent agenda for all our stuff, so we're thankful. We have no payments this week. Go ahead, Seth.
All right, construction. The 2023 crushing contract, the contractors continuing crushing in Matson Quarry should be finishing up soon. Blasting is scheduled this afternoon for the Fisher Hill Quarry. Bickleton area paving pre-construction conference is scheduled for next week with a start date tentatively the last week of this month. Sundale Old Highway 8 contract and bonds have been sent to the contractor for approval. And that got copied, Jeff. On road design, the data collection ball banking, same update as last week. They're finishing up their paperwork, hopefully be done at the end of this month. Sunnyside Road overlay. Staff is working on design and coordinating with any affected utility companies. Bridge repair bundles, we're still working through WashDOT to get that contract in place for the consultant to get those designed. And other preliminary work continues.
Okay, on the maintenance side, on the east side, we're spot graveling and doing culvert replacement and shoulder building in anticipation of our paving project coming in May. West side, grading and finishing the brooming of the sand. Upcoming facilities events, sale barn construction keeps moving along. Working on concrete now. Superior Court remodel, demo has been completed. Framing is almost complete. Judge, we've been on working with the judge. They're happy with the way the remodel is looking. Again, we will reopen the courtroom May 6th. It'll be a temporary, more of a temporary setting. You'll see chairs instead of the pews because they're all off in Vancouver getting refinished.
So I'm getting questions on the courthouse remodel. And who's paying for that and whatnot. And so I've answered it. That it's historic buildings grant, courthouse grant that's funding it. But can you give me another quickie detail of what we're actually doing in there and why?
What we're doing in there is we're providing a little, they're doing a little subtle changes to provide some separation. Security changes, permanent security changes. We had temporary for quite a while. It's more of a permanent thing, a little bit more separation where now the witness looks down on, they're right next to the jurors and they look down so you can have some intimidation. That will be moved over a little bit. The clerks actually have more protection. And also there is now where the clerk's area sits and where the judge sits, that'll all be bulletproof Kevlar finishing. You won't see it. It'll be behind everything.
While trying to protect the character.
Right, you have to, exactly. That's because that's what gets us the money.
There
It's
you
the
go.
character.
Okay.
And it will look different. The lighting will change. It's kind of dark and dreary in there. And years ago, there used to be a skylight.
Correct.
We weren't putting the skylight in. That'd be a lot. That'd be millions of dollars difference. But we are going to give it the look that it had before. So it will look different. It looks more spacious and everything. But feel free to go down and take a look at it. Events, we still have the archery event scheduled for April, the end of April. Fuel Island, we're still moving along. I need to take this off because the auditor's thing has been complete. I thought I took that off. Anyway, HVAC system still on schedule. Sadis Pass, the repair to the camera is scheduled the week of April 30th. Again, it has no effect on how that site functions. All it does is it's a security camera that we don't have at all of our sites. It's something new that was added and it's on the contractor, not on the county. And we have one follow-up issue. We have to amend the 6-year. So we will be moving something forward on the consent agenda to pick out a date for the hearing. The reason we're amending it was we're bringing another project that we hoped to get completed last year, did not, needs to go back on. We also are adding more dollars to the Sundale project and we're adding another project. All that stuff is all grant funded, no county dollars. So it'll increase the budget about $5 million. Keeping in mind, those are grant dollars we got. It's not money that's coming. we want to get our fair share of the state and federal tax dollars, gas tax dollars.
We want to get our money back, is what you're saying.
Yes, we're gonna actually get more than our fair share. And that's all we have.
Other than I did hand out the
Yep,
bridge
go ahead.
report, so if you guys have any questions on reviewing that, let me know.
Question. Okay, we have one steel bridge that's in the mid-20s. What bridge is that?
That one I think is Roosevelt grade without looking, or Roosevelt overpass over the train tracks.
Okay, and then what about the pre-stressed concrete that's in the mid-40s?
I'll have to look at that one, see which one that one is. I don't recall off the top of my head.
I mean, this is
Those were ones that'll be inspected this year, so I'll double check.
great numbers. It's amazing that the average is going up. And I can only. Sorry. And I can only say enough good things about staff and getting the federal dollars in order to continue to maintain these and keep these sufficiency ratings this high. Working on a bridge with a sufficiency rating at 6, I can tell you that you guys are doing a great job.
Yes, we've been fortunate enough to get some, and we have a bunch of bridge bundle projects that talks about every,
right,
which will help.
And what bridge is this?
I don't know. It's just an older picture we dug up, thought it was interesting. I don't think it exists. My best guess is it was down on the Klickitat River and got washed out in 96 floods. It looks like a lot of them that were down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure it out either.
It's interesting. Great picture. Yeah, I'll have to save it and look at it for a while. Try to figure it out. Thank you.
Okay.
That was easy.
Yep. Thank you. Madam Chair, we have a ex-county commissioner with her hand raised.
Great. Yes,
Come
you
forward.
may.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd like to commend you and the road department on the Canyon Road, that logging issue that created a very dangerous situation. You guys got on that right away. It was pretty serious. And I appreciate it. Few more feet was hurt, but. thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
But you know, we only did go where it was warm.
Yes, but it was quick and very appreciated.
Thank you. We
So-
really appreciate good work. Thanks a lot.
I'm-
Okay.
You too.
So I'm going to repeat that for the record and for Zoom people, that was former Commissioner, longtime County Commissioner Joan Fry, and she was thanking Public Works for their great work on Canyon Road to get that guardrail, which was very dangerous, installed for public safety. So thank you, Joan. We always make people come up front, you know.
And let the record show, Mr. West did not ask for gravel this time.
I'm the share guy.
Perfect. She had asked me to bring it, so even better if it works on your screen. So
Great.
are you ready? For
Yes,
the-
we are.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Wanted to introduce you to my new voter registration deputy. This is Jennifer Watts. These are Commissioners
Jennifer.
Anderson, Buller, and Christopher.
Nice to meet you.
Brought the entourage with us today. All right, so just to do a little bit of a historical background as to how we got where we are today. Every 10 years, there's a census done, at which time congressional districts, legislative districts, commissioner districts are all looked at and adjusted as necessary for population. We're dealing with data from the 2020 census, and that changed us from Congressional District 3 to Congressional District 4. We, as a county, did not change any of our commissioner districts. So those remain the same as they were adjusted with the 2010 census. We are not redistricting in this process. We are re-precincting. We have made no changes to commissioner districts. The soonest we can do that is 2026. What we're dealing with is a change to our legislative districts because the state has finally finished adjudicating what those look like. So based on 2020 census data and ensuing lawsuits, Klickitat County is now split into both the 14th and the 17th legislative districts. And there are a couple of rules with precincts that we have to follow. Precincts can't cross commissioner districts, they can't cross congressional districts, they can't cross legislative districts, and they can't be larger than 1,500 voters. So we had two precincts that were pushing the 1,500 number. And then obviously with the change of legislative districts, we had a bunch that we had to address because they were crossing 14 and 17.
What were the two that were pushing, Woodland and Pine Forest?
Yes. So what you have on the screen is the top map is the old precinct map. The bottom map is the current proposed precinct map. And what I would like to do is answer any questions and then present the individual precinct maps along with legal descriptions in a resolution on the consent agenda next Tuesday, because we have to adopt any changes by the 29th so that we can go into filing week with correct maps. So nobody's commissioner district has changed. The legislative districts have changed for a significant chunk of voters over which we have no control. The only impact that our changing of precincts potentially has is various precinct committee officers or PCOs. All PCOs are up for election this August anyway. Until we get these maps, so we have the okay from you to get them into VoteWA, I can't tell you exact roads and which precinct committee officers may actually be in a new precinct for sure. I can tell you that we've combined what was High Prairie and what was Lyle. So that's going to take what would have been 2 precinct officers, assuming they were filled, and merge it into one. We split 20, so that will now create, well, it changes it because we've merged basically 20 into 3 at the bottom. We can go over some of these various details here in a second, but so there will be some shift to precinct committee officers, but I cannot tell you today what that.
When you figure
change
that
is.
out, do you have plans of working with the 2 parties and explaining to them? So they might be able to find people to apply?
Yes, as soon as we know what this looks like, we are required, 1, to send out letters to every voter whose precinct is changed. So we're looking at somewhere between 35 and 7,500 letters that have to go out as soon as we adopt this. We will let the parties know what that looks like. And then once we get those maps into VoteWA, if somebody is interested in being a PCO, they can also call us and we can tell them appropriately where their precinct is.
I had 2 real questions, if I may. I don't know if you can see my cursor up there moving around in this squiggly line over
Yep.
here. Why is that line so squiggly? Does that follow a creek or a river or something? Or do you know?
That I don't know. That line is for legislative district 14.
Oh,
That
so
is
it's
the
matching the line that they already made it.
Yes.
Interesting.
So if you look at on the, what would be the east side of precinct 29, come down that line around under 31 and over by 6, comes around 21. I was going to try to do this without a whole bunch of hand waves.
Say you need
They're
an
not
easel
possible.
because I'm trying to find
Um,
any of the numbers you gave me. Oh, yeah.
There you go.
So all of this area is 17, and so it comes down, goes around, follows this line.
Okay.
Over here, comes down this way, goes up to this little star point, comes down like this.
Oh, so it's not us that made the weird squiggly line. It's the Washington.
Washington State made weird squiggly lines.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Primarily using the exterior bounds of the reservation.
Yes,
Oh.
that is what this line is.
The northern part, yes.
is- Is the exterior bounds of the reservation.
That one makes total sense to me. The whole rest of the squiggle.
And what's represented here is, down here, and I have larger printouts of that. Our commissioner district boundaries don't exactly follow the reservation boundary on this edge. Whenever the county redistricts next, that should be addressed to actually follow that natural boundary. So we have this little group in here, precinct 31 and 32, that have no voters. But because they're in one commissioner district versus the other, and
Okay, that was my second question about that weird section, and you're saying that that weird boundary has no voters, so this should impact nobody, and then when we go around to redistricting for commissioner districts, we'll address that and
clean up
clean
the
that.
line. Yeah. And 29, which was the controversial piece of Trout Lake that was moved into Commissioner District 2 in the 2010 census, is now its own precinct. It is still in Commissioner District 2 because we're not changing commissioner districts, but it is no longer part of what was previously called the Glenwood precinct, which is precinct 6.
When we had them, I know we can't redistrict now, but when we had them, the firm come up with these precincts, did they come up with these precincts in a way that will make it easy for us to redistrict later, or are we gonna have to go create new precincts again? Did we have a little forethought in our potential for the
They
future?
followed census blocks and geographic boundaries. So, I mean, this is really outside of my wheelhouse, but yes, I believe that when we go to look at redistricting, this will help us make some
Small
big-
changes
yes.
that aren't 12,000 people moving into the next. That was my concern, that there's not small enough precincts to
Yeah.
slide.
And
over.
I mean, and at some point, when you start to look at moving commissioner lines, you've got to move somebody, and, you know, there may or may not be any good answers. There's just answers. So.
Okay, those are the only questions I had, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Is there a reason we're waiting till 2026 on the commissioner? Is that law
So
or?
there's an RCW that says that you can redistrict if it's appropriate in between censuses, but you can't do it sooner than 4 years. And we adopted a plan in 2022.
Okay.
So 2026 would be,
We'll have to wait.
even though it made no changes, we still adopted a redistricting
And that was,
plan.
I don't know if you were aware of that.
Mhm.
And how that all shook out in the court case that followed and the
Yeah, it was very
split
unhappy.
opinion of the board. And so, yeah, I'll be curious to see where that goes.
Well, lucky you.
The fact that you can get somebody to do this in the very small amount of time, and that you guys have had the time to work on this in the very small amount of time that the state gave you to do this and still get, I don't even know how to get it. That's the fastest I've ever seen government work and not screw something up.
It's because we brought in a non-governmental agency.
Bingo, bingo. That makes total sense then.
So if you guys don't have any questions, I would invite the public, if they don't understand this or have more questions, we passed out some copies in the audience, but we have more at the auditor's office. They're welcome to stop by and ask questions. We will walk people through the changes as best we can. But if you guys don't have any more changes and are okay with these recommendations, we would like, as I said, to put the maps and legal descriptions, which Public Works is diligently working on getting for me, on next Tuesday's consent agenda.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I would like to see this map with a real map overlay with cities, towns, roads and whatever, but I understand we can't quite do that in the time frame.
Well, and part of the problem is when you start adding layer upon layer upon layer, you lose the ability to see anything. So, we can put in commissioner districts, and I presented you guys with, kind of hand-drawn pictures of where commissioner districts fall and where the legislative districts and sort of that overlay. If I try to put streets in there on top of that, now we've just got so much in such a tiny space that you lose really any ability to tell what it is you're looking at. So, but the individual maps that Public Works will produce will have that precinct with all of the detail in it. So whether we can get you one all in one place is
Well, even if it's
seen,
like
but-
a map like this that you click on it and then it has a breakout of that precinct with actual description. I think it would be nice for the public going down the road, not telling you how to do anything. But
Absolutely.
So when it's done in the interactive mapping, you can go in and click on the add data and pick voting precincts and it'll show, and then you can blow it up and.
right, that's what I'm used to.
Closer.
Yeah.
We'll get there. But you guys have to adopt this plan before it's official. So we have Public Works working on it, but if you guys were gonna make changes, we didn't, want to get it on GIS and in vote, because this is your precinct map.
And this is a quick turnaround. Have you heard from anybody, public, that has questions or concerns?
We've had discussions with some members of the public. The biggest concern, I think, that I've heard expressed is that we're getting away from names of precincts and just going with numbers. The
Oh.
names,
So the names we currently have will no longer be their names.
correct, we're just going to go with the numbers because we had,
Mhm.
East Klickitat was west of West Klickitat as we moved things around and changed names, and they don't necessarily represent a geographic area, and then people get attached to the
Uh,
name.
I'm
So-
never gonna figure these numbers out then. If
Sure
you
you
take all my names away, I won't remember where Orchard Heights is. You're gonna tell me 26 or some crazy number.
And that's why you go to the map.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Well, the state only requires numbers.
So
We don't
the,
have to have
the
names.
29, I can't see the upper one of that. Did that essentially just create a new district up there?
You're here.
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
29 was previously part of 6.
right, okay. You haven't
And
heard anything about that?
We have no idea.
Because all we've done is change the name of it. We haven't changed who they
Well,
voted
and it's-
for.
Right.
The state did because they're now in a different legislative district than they were when they were in 6.
Okay. But that's a bigger problem. Okay.
But I can't change that. You can't change that. You gotta take that.
Can we change the names of these?
We did to numbers.
Could we, as the Board of Commissioners, change them back to
29 is the
names?
number.
I'm just asking legality. Or do they have to be numbered?
Well, they have to have a number. They don't have to have a name, but they have to have a number.
But the board could assign
could-
names
you
if
could-
it so chose.
You
is
could go
my question.
rename them and
And a
I-
number.
motion.
I suppose that's possible.
Okay.
You could have fun naming them. Then you'll remember them.
If I was going to be here long enough and thought that there was a second vote to do it, I'd be all over it. Can they be renamed later with names over numbers
I think
at a later date, or do we have to wait till some 5-year goes by scenario?
I think officially, if they go by numbers, if you're naming them,
But
that's
you
just
can't,
your
you can't get rid of
numbers.
the numbers.
Right,
but-
I'm not
but
trying
we
to get rid
can-
of the number.
I believe we can put names on them at any,
At our
give
free
them
will,
nicknames.
if the general public wants us to speak for them.
and hey, if that's
Get
the
around
biggest
that.
complaint that we get is that there's no names,
Mhm.
All
I'll
right.
take, I'll take
You're
it.
good.
I'll bring this up later then if we're not in a hurry for it.
Mhm.
I have to pass.
You can think about it in your
Names
steps.
to the-
Set up a task
That's
force,
fun.
naming task force.
Oh, no.
Make it a competition.
Yeah, let the
There you go.
PCO name
Ah,
Just stay out of it.
it. Don't get confusing.
Put him in a hat and draw it.
All right,
out.
that's all I have. I digress. I'm getting down the wrong
Okay,
path
no, that
here.
was interesting. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
From which party? Good question.
They have to work together. They can't figure it out
Hey,
together.
that could be a plan right there. You have to get in the room and agree on something for
So they're going to bring it back next week unless you have changes or comments for us to vote.
You guys didn't get any further than that?
No, and the only other thing is
Got hung
all,
up on names.
all of the precinct names are now numbers, but later we could add names if the board so chooses to do
They
so.
always had numbers. They just
Right.
also had.
People got used to names.
People got used to names.
We've got to find a few names.
Maybe we can discuss that at a later date. We don't have to do it now.
No, absolutely not.
Yep.
I just wanted to say, amazing job. I cannot believe that we can be moving precincts and have this designed before, less than a month. And we all know that government moves slowly, and you've done an absolutely superb job, both of you, in getting this through and getting a contractor on board. I don't know how their computer modeling works to be able to do this quickly, but it's amazing.
We get stuff done in the auditor's office.
I like it.
No, I think you had it
Good
right
luck.
earlier when you said outside
Yeah.
private agency.
No, this time I'm gonna take it.
No,
You're
take
like,
it.
no, I'm gonna take it all.
No, take it, because I don't know where the other counties, have you talked to the other counties? Are they gonna get theirs done in time, or?
I have not talked to the other counties. I got enough to worry about with ours. So I'm gonna let them worry about theirs and.
So. May I have
I'm
another
tickled
question?
pink with the work and the cost, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We
What
agree, yeah.
happens? We agree all the time. What happens? I know that the Supreme Court did not take it up, but it is still in an appeal. If the appeal gets found, say, 6 months from now to be relevant and it starts that, would we automatically roll back to the old one if the lines don't change? And is that something how we can write it into the actual agreement so that it would be automatic, that if the appeal gets overturned or whatever?
That's probably a better question
Uh-huh.
for David Cannell.
Okay.
But until we see something from a court that says it's not happening, it's,
Right. I
It's
know
happening.
it's gonna happen for this,
but I don't know that you can unring the bell,
Definitely.
in the middle, but that would be a David Cannell question.
Right. The bell is rung for this election, but if the appeal goes through and we roll back to the old one, if we can put it in the language in front of us, so we don't have to deal with it again. It's like, no, it goes back to where it used to be. Everything's fine. Just a thought. I'm just trying
Well,
to save time.
so
effort.
let's say that, they unring that bell. We could still stay with the precincts. It would just be about whether or not the precincts were in. I mean, there's
No, because
Well,
if
you have to figure if they rejudicate
move
that
everybody back into
boundary that sucks
14.
over and it takes Goldendale and they go, wait, you can't do that. You need to cut off all of Commissioner District 1 and put that over there. Our precincts are probably not gonna match with whatever they come up with. We'll have to do this again anyway.
no, because
They're not gonna run their boundary where we want them to.
right, but where our old boundary was where it was. And so if they win on appeal, then that boundary would revert back to where it used to be, which means our new precincts would not follow the old boundary.
The precincts would still be fine because all they would do is take what's now 17 and put it back in 14, but there's nothing that says those precincts can't be those precincts. So we could still leave all
Because
of the
the boundary
precincts.
is the,
It would just change.
okay,
So, I mean,
Yep.
if they flip-flopped it, right, and put it in 17 and
Right,
14 or
that ain't
split the
gonna-
line somewhere else, then we have a problem. But if they just said, nope, Klickitat's all
all in the
14,
14, then we don't have to
we
worry
wouldn't have
about
to
it.
do anything. We just have a bunch of precincts that maybe
Okay.
weren't necessary, but,
Perfect, thank you. This is what I get for walking out of the room.
Mhm.
Nope, I'm good. Don't have any other questions.
Are there really that many people in 0029? It sure looks like
I know, I was looking at that.
that's a piece of Trout Lake.
it does pick up enough of Trout Lake's population. I was just trying to figure.
Yes.
It had to follow, I asked her that question. She said it had to follow the reservation line
Yep.
coming down.
And
now.
that little area in 31 and 32
Mhm.
is where our commissioner boundaries don't follow the Yakima Nation boundary. There are no voters, but it crisscrosses over the Yakima Nation boundary, so we
So
have
there's-
to,
So
do
there's
give it a
precincts,
number.
but there's no one who lives within it.
correct.
So we don't have to worry about it.
So
I-
we have 2 precincts with no voters, 31 and 32.
I would let Commissioner Christopher choose the name of 30 or 31.
I will
Nobody
happily
home one
find a
and
good
nobody
name
home
for it.
two.
Twilight Zone.
Disadvantaged. I don't
Better
know.
than disenfranchised.
No, I'm good. Are we happy and ready to stop sharing now?
Mhm. You done?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Nice
Right.
to meet you.
Now someone's gonna go and move into 31.
Yeah.
So they can have their own
Purposely.
precinct.
There, they can be
Yeah.
their own
Well,
precinct.
that was
Hang
my
on.
worry, is you're gonna get one of these, RVs. He's gonna be the PCO and his wife will be the PCO for the other party and they just live in the woods and name the precinct after him. It'd be
Cause
great.
havoc. That would be a good way to get the precinct named after yourself.
And then
What'd you guys like to do? You're 11:01.
Commissioner miscellaneous reports is next.
Okay.
Well, I think Commissioner Anderson put 2 on here. The only thing I have is the third opioid settlement that we got the email over. We have to make a decision, I'm assuming, whether we're going to accept this settlement like we've accepted the first 2. The date's like May 11th. Jen is going to bring it up in the finance meeting.
Okay.
And then I'm sure it will come before the board for consideration. We have a little bit of time on it, but I just wanted to make sure we brought that to everybody's attention. If you guys do make a decision on that while I'm gone, I am in favor of accepting.
Okay.
And that's all I had on the opioid settlement.
Did you have anything under commissioners miscellaneous?
Yeah.
reports? Yeah.
I know it came in front of us a few months ago for a letter of support, but we have the Columbia Land Trust
Mhm.
that has quite a few acres of fee ownership in the county. They also have quite a few acres under conservation easement. We wrote a letter of support multiple years ago. And that was for phase 1 of the Forest Legacy dollars.
Yes.
And that was everything in purple here,
Yes.
or pink. And that was funded, I think, 2 years ago. They just received notice that everything in the dark red was funded for Forest Legacy dollars. So a good portion of the White Salmon River corridor and Rattlesnake Creek corridor and around on the north side of Bald Mountain is now going to be in conservation easements. And that's moving forward. And then everything you see here in the red would be phase 3, and that's Snowden, Appleton area that they'll go for. But then the phase 2 also includes a bunch of land around within the Gorge National Scenic Area in that northern side, Penny Ridge area.
So you said phase 2 was approved, money came through, done deal?
Phase of 2 has
All of
been funded.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. So just wanted to give you guys an update on that. And I've got some questions on how many actual acres in Klickitat County are going into Sherry.
Thank you.
And then for the bridge, we had 2 days of meetings with Kiewit. Kiewit was selected the bridge design build contractor. So we got together in Vancouver and with all of the smartest bridge designers and architects in the world and looked at the costs and what we're going to do. So we're going to run 2 plans concurrently right now. One is for a poured in place structure, all concrete. And then another one is to look at, I mean, we've got a lot of issues in the gorge, the wind, the weather, the cold. We've got, 6 months plus of the year where it's under 40 degrees during night. So there's a bunch of issues with grouting and such like that. So they were also concurrently running the numbers on, it would be a steel, concrete coming out of the water, and then it would be steel in between all the pylons, and then prefabricated concrete on top of it, laid on top,
Hmm.
kind of like what they did down here at the bridge, at the Dalles Bridge. You know how they built
Yeah.
it and then set them
Yeah,
in.
oh,
place.
that's
So were they
interesting.
looking at the two different options as far as price, or which one's gonna stand up better in our environment and?
Both. So a lot of the decision making is going to come down to when we go to purchase materials, what the price of steel is at the time. Steel prices can fluctuate radically. So there's the cost to construct, but there's the actual cost of the, concrete costs stay pretty relatively the same, especially when you're, looking at this kind of
But
quantity.
they're gonna have maintenance analysis if you went this option
Yep.
versus that
Yep,
option.
so that was the
Long-term
long-term
costs, okay.
maintenance, the life cycle costs, the life cycle timeframe of it.
Educated decision,
All
good
that,
stuff.
that's the direction we're going. And we should have a decision around July 1 in terms of those. So a lot of movement, really amazing meetings.
That's really interesting, talking about a solid structure.
It was.
Years ago when we had tough winters, I remember going across that bridge and there was a reason why it was graded. So that kind of worries me,
It has to be, there's no way you could build a
the way it was.
open structure anymore with oil falling through and the
Yep.
EPA and everything else is like, you'll never see that again. So I know it's really nice that you don't have to plow it, unless.
Well, I don't know if you guys remember
Not
the
plowing.
Dalles Bridge a couple winters ago. It was pretty much an open graded structure
Yeah, it
too,
was.
with the potholes in the
Yeah, it
middle of the
was.
thing.
That was scary.
That's, that was, yeah,
Mhm.
scary is a good word.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to. Oh, my computer didn't freeze. So here's another one I came across. Recall when we were talking about the uplisting of the Western gray squirrel.
Right.
And I said that this potentially has the largest impact on Klickitat County, that anything that we will see, this is potentially on the same realm as the spotted owl for federal forests. Just wanted to make us all aware that the Vancouver Audubon Society and other environmental groups are suing the state for failing to protect habitat for the endangered western gray squirrel. This includes Friends of the Columbia River Gorge, Friends of the White Salmon River, Wild Earth Guardians, and Center for Biological Diversity based in Tucson. I think this is a lawsuit that we are going to want to follow very closely. We don't have, anybody in really in natural resources at policy level, but this has huge implications on all of our timber operations within the county. You figure the vast majority of Klickitat County is within gray squirrel habitat in some shape or form. And in what I'm hearing as well as is that some of the same organizations are appealing forced practice permit applications already. So that, they're appealing their SEPA determination on these forced practice permit applications, which the unintended consequences is that people will likely start harvesting more faster because of it. Because if you don't have a good certainty of how this will turn out, people will just start logging because you're going to try to get their value out of their property. It's widely
We've seen that before.
concerning. Yes,
Yeah.
we've seen it in lots of different things.
Yeah.
Whenever you talk about zone changes, everybody comes in for a short plat.
Well, and what's interesting to me is the connectivity. So then you're talking about the oaks and everything else in between patches, and it affects everything, the whole properties.
Huge.
It isn't
huge
like the
repercussions.
gray, it isn't like the spotted owl circle. We're talking connectivity, so they have the treetops to run.
So I just wanted to make my seatmates aware, there was a newspaper article in the Columbian
Okay,
on March 6th.
okay.
And that's all I have for miscellaneous reports.
I am good today. Miscellaneous reports for myself. We did not have staff do a jail update. The task force, they're working diligently at each item that comes up, and they've created a task list that they're moving through. I think that work will continue. Some more items have been added to their work. And I also believe that they're being cognizant that Mr. Christopher has a vacation. And so we want to be sure that you're included and you're here. So that 2-week time frame will add into that work list.
I did order or ask staff to order me a magnifying glass today so I can look at the documents when I get back.
I put on 2 pairs of glasses.
I don't have any, or I would put on about 6 because that's some pretty small type. If you wanted to talk about jail now, in your statements earlier, and I'm just trying to get for my own knowledge here. You said that there was a task force formed. Can you tell me the date that the task force was formed? Or is that the date? And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth.
Right.
The date that Commissioner Anderson, I believe it was the 26th on that Tuesday meeting that he.
Yes, and since I was donned that title as lead, because we have our open public meetings problem, I think task force is a word I was using for it. I don't like investigative committee. I think there are a task force.
But that's when that started.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That's when that
but-
language
But
started.
prior
Prior
to
to that,
that, you had been working with
yes,
staff,
I did.
and on the 26th, you came to say, hey, I'm working with staff.
Correct.
And we've had this conversation multiple times that, we don't direct staff to do things for the most part. We ask staff to look into things. They do it all the time.
Mhm.
And so on the 26th, I'd stated, you be the lead on it, work with staff, in essence, create that task force. And that's how that starts. Before that,
When
I've
did-
asked staff questions all the time.
When did staff start working on?
I'd have to look back in my calendars and records to find it, but it kind of bubbled forward as litigation, maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks before that. We were having intermittent conversations and trying to figure out a path. And I felt like I said, that the freight train was coming and it was making me very nervous. So I was asking questions of staff of, what does this look like? Where do we go from here?
And then the last question is this task force that was put together. Who sits on it? I know Rob and Jen are actively involved. Is any other county employees on this on a regular basis?
Rob, yeah, we're gonna let you ask who's where.
Casey's been involved on the union side to date. And Jeff King was consulted about, should a decision be made about the impact on dispatch and communication between the jail and dispatch. And Jeff Hunter was, I talked to Jeff Hunter about mothballing the jail, issues with IT was consulted about if the jail's not there, is there servers in there that have to be serviced? So we were trying to look at it from all aspects.
Right, but I'm trying to figure out who the main players are, if there's any other main players besides the two of you. Sure, you're asking
Casey.
questions to people. that
Casey's
can
been
give
involved on a
answers.
regular
Okay.
basis, and,
Okay.
and there's been regular discussions with these other directors, not every day.
Right,
But-
judges,
And what we,
it's a big palette.
yeah, I haven't been discussing with the judges, but, and then since then, there's just been I talked to WSP for extended period of time yesterday, and so, but early on, it was the three of us talking to multiple directors and saying, if this happens, what's the impact? What would that mean to facilities? What would it mean to IT? What would it mean to the dispatch function and those kind of things? So three on a daily basis, up to 6 or 7.
And I can add, for myself, I started looking into this in the January timeframe, particularly with the ice storm. When the power, we're getting reports that there's no heat over there, that the bathroom or that the toilets are freezing, and it was, what can we do? What are the options? And is there emergency plans in place in the jail for if we need to remove people out of there? So that's like when my very first discussion started really, really happening about the jail. Which of course, the only option that, that was coming up was, well, the only place that we know that's big enough to house it that's close would be like Norcor. Potentially Stevenson, but they were having all their own issues too.
Have you ever reached out to Norcor, or did you back then, about using them as a contingency plan and not a first, hey, we're gonna reserve 35 beds for a year. But
I
what
didn't-
if it's an emergency and we want to bring you 30 people? Is that even possible? Have we asked
I
them
did
that?
not reach out to Norcor. I was talking with staff primarily at that time.
And I've had that conversations of different options. We're exploring all the options. It's not just a pat, this is what we're going to do. It's not a one size fit all, that's for sure. So we have to explore our way through that.
That
Um,
totally answers the
okay.
questions that I had on your statement. so,
Okay,
yeah.
I wanted to give you a little information part too. In my quest, I did look at how many jails are in Washington State and what's their configuration. And there are 39 counties with 59 jails. I believe the number was 16 of them are regional facilities where smaller jails have combined because of finances and ability to serve the inmates have combined those. So there are 16 other regional jails within our state. So it's not uncommon.
Can I ask a question? It's on a different subject. Because I'm sure George is wondering. George and I just didn't bump into each other in the hall one day and decide I'd be his director. He's been given updates with me for months. So at some point there was a discussion about me assuming interim oversight of George. I may have misunderstood the questions or the answers that were given, but I just want to assure George that what we're doing now is the direction. And I've mentioned to the commissioners a couple times that we need to make a final decision about the placement of codes, but other things have kind of bubbled up, and he's pretty self-contained in what he does on a day-to-day basis. So I just want to assure George that he officially is reporting to me on an interim basis and not accidentally.
Didn't we make a motion to that effect about a year ago?
And I can't remember if it was a motion or a discussion at a workshop. I just remember when it moved away from the commissioners. And I can't remember if there was a formal.
I think we did it formal.
I don't
We'll have
remember if
to
it
look.
was formal or not formal, but I know it was unanimous consent. So
We can look for that, sorry.
if
And
I hate putting more work on staff. Look for that. Oh my God.
No, I don't like to look
Let's
over
work
there.
on staff or they're gonna make us hire another one.
so a lot of that was with the intent that we would update the codes.
Right.
And
And
you
then find a
would-
permanent home.
And then we would find a
He
permanent
has
home.
he has a draft, and we.
Right, and so we need
try
to
get it
keep
you.
moving that draft forward on the
Right.
changes, and then
Yeah.
once we do that.
Yeah.
I think we stick it where it's gonna
Right, I
go.
just don't know how fast we're moving on the draft now that you have this other thing on
Oh,
your
he's
plate.
got the draft. It just matter getting in front of you. It's, as I mentioned to you before, it's light. He took a soft approach to revising it, not a total rewrite. And so I think, and I've looked at it, so it's just a matter of getting it to you so you can discuss it on a Tuesday afternoon or a Thursday or workshop.
And if I'm, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm trying to remember correctly because we have been working on this for years, it seems like. The options for permanent home were either building department or health department. Is that correct?
No, not the health department. It was the sheriff's department office were the two, or back to where it came from.
So those were the two options, is
Well,
building or back to where it
There's
was.
as many
or-
options as you want to consider.
There's
but-
always planning, there's a lot of
Yeah,
different.
but I think that those were the two that were discussed briefly.
Good point.
Uh-huh.
He occasionally has a good idea.
Stop before you give me. a
Moving
big-
on.
Before I left.
The walls have went up.
Or before we have a vacancy.
You're giving him all sorts of compliments today. I don't know if he knows what to do with them.
Okay,
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to recess for the lunch hour.
I would second.
motion and a second. Any discussion?
I do have a smidge. Um, I know it's been mentioned twice that I'm not going to be here. I wish it wasn't mentioned publicly that I was going on vacation. I think that is a very dangerous game to play. With the general public telling someone that they won't be home to guard their house. Luckily, I have tenants 100 feet away from my house, so they will be watching my house. But I would again request that the board, over the next 2 weeks that I won't be here, not publicly state that I'm on vacation somewhere.
Thank you.
Just say I'm away and be good with
I go on vacation and stay home and work, so
that.
there you
Say
are.
I'm away.
Uh-huh. Okay. Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
I,
Aye. Motion passes. Good afternoon. There you go. Good afternoon. We're going to call the afternoon session back to order for April 16th, 2024 of the Klickitat County Board of County Commissioners meeting. We're going to open this meeting with a public hearing. Do we need staff? Oh, we do have staff. I was looking for planning department. Thank you. Wrong department. So great. Good to see you. The open public hearing, noting the purpose of the hearing is to consider an application for classification to open space land for current use assessment application 05/05/2024-01. Parcel number 03-101-400-000-000, approximately 6.82 acres, and the applicant owner is Benjamin Seagraves. Do we have any ex parte contacts or potential conflicts of interest with the board?
I do not have any conflicts. I do not know the man. I do not know any party involved.
And I would make the statement comment.
And the same for myself. So I would ask staff for their review.
It's okay. I work on the fly. It's fine. It's okay. And it looks like, if I may begin.
Yes.
So today I have with me Caitlin Washburn. She's my current use specialist. So she assists taxpayers in informing them and educating them on the programs that we provide through our office. The applicant has applied for the open space program, which is mostly for the conservation of the natural landscape, natural resources, and also for the benefit to the public. In our conversations with Mr. Seagraves, he initially contacted us after receiving his assessment notice, which had increased substantially by an error by our office. And within that 30-day window of call-in, we discussed it, and I reviewed the market evidence and the parcel itself. It's not, I would not consider it a residential parcel that would be compared to other residential parcels. And so
Is it, sorry, would you consider it a
Yeah.
buildable parcel?
I do not make that determination. And so through that process, I was able to review it and then readjust back to what it had previously been assessed at. But in the meantime, he was very concerned about the increase in the assessment with the potential tax burden that it would have brought. And so he applied for the open space program. And so in my comments to staff, or the tax shift on this particular parcel is not significant because it's a fairly low valued parcel in that area just due to its restrictions that we feel we were valuing, I think at 32,000 or 34,000. I don't have that in front of me. Okay. And so, and when we value a parcel that's approved for open space, we value it at 50% market value. So potentially, of course, half of that would be assessed and taxes applied for half of that value. And so our office's recommendation, the plan looks good to us, but we're not the deciders. We're just making sure that if you do approve, that we make sure that his parcel is posted and kept up as the deal,
The program
the-
states.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
program states. And so, I'm neither here or there. I wouldn't have an opinion either way to put it in or to leave it as a, we would consider like a restricted steep parcel. So that is my opinion.
But you are stating that it classifies for the program, qualifies for the program.
It could potentially qualify if you agree to be in a contract with the landowner.
Do we have other open space, lots of this size that are this small?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Most of them are larger tracts.
I apologize, Chair. I just remember this as a public hearing
Yeah.
and I
Okay.
spoke out of turn.
Okay. Okay, after staff review, I guess we open it for a public hearing for testimony as follows the applicant's testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seagraves, do you have something?
Thank you. Thank you for considering this. I don't really have anything to add that's not in the, what I've submitted already, but if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Do you have questions?
When we get to that point.
I do have questions when we get to the procedural
Okay.
point in the.
The tract is extremely small, but it's kind of a keystone and and is adjacent to a lot of other property, public and private property that is under conservation easements. So it's locked in with a bunch of other pieces of property that are in a natural condition, including the Pacific Powers property, which it's across the road, and U.S. Fish and Wildlife property, which is on the downside of the 141A.
So currently are people accessing those properties through your property? Do they?
Not through my property, but from 141 downhill.
Okay, so they do already?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and probably for as long as, at least as long as I've been there.
Okay.
Which is about 20 years now.
So I guess we're going, if that's your testimony, we'll move to people in support. Is there anyone in support of the project that would like to speak? Do we have anyone online? I'm not seeing anyone today. So moving on, anybody opposed to the application? Or is there anybody willing to give testimony in opposition to the project? I'm not seeing anybody there either, so. So does the board have any clarifications or statements made by the applicant? Clarifications or questions?
I do.
Okay.
Get back to my map real quick. Should be popping up. So this is the property in question right here, correct?
So it's that odd triangle there.
Right, the one my little mouse is floating around in.
And my house would be in the lower right-hand corner of that,
Lower right.
right there.
Okay. So, oh, and the other person, yes.
Adjacent to it.
Got it.
Mhm.
Okay, that makes sense. And did you say that these properties around it anywhere around this parcel are open to the public access?
So that is the property that your arrow's on right now is state property.
Okay, so public has access.
If you go across the road to the other side of 141, then you're in US Fish and Wildlife property. If you go off of the map towards on the left-hand side, you would be in Pacific Power property, which is now, as I understand it, they're in the process of trying to figure out what's going to happen with that.
Okay, does anybody have access from this side? Or would they have to access it via boat through there?
The access would be.
No.
Here. And there's also a large pullout. A large parking pullout.
Okay, so they would all be coming from that way. Got it. Okay. Are you guys done with the map? I can unshare.
And the property that's below that is a large tract that's also in the conservation.
Okay. That brings me to my last question, which is item number 7 on your list, to provide safe public access.
Yes.
And it says this will be accomplished by
Yes.
building safe trails through the property and setting up electronic revocable permission system for the general public to gain access. Could you explain that electronic revocable permission system?
Basically, what would happen is if you wanted to go in and walk the trail, and I think the part of it that's going to be most appealing is up the creek, which is really pretty. But what you do is there would be a SKU code on the sign. Put your phone up, agree to the terms, which are basically no fireworks, no firearms, no fire. Agree to those terms, and it would grant you access, revocable access.
Okay. Okay.
And apparently you can purchase these systems now intact.
Perfect. That is all the questions I had.
I do have a little bit of experience with this parcel. As a kid, I used to walk across it going down to the river from a friend's house, and I can the streams that are on it. Of course, I was a kid, and it is one of the most unique, beautiful little pieces of ground. When you're walking around, you know, as a kid, bubbling around through streams, the fact that you're willing to open it up to the general public to walk around on those trails as well, I think is absolutely amazing. And thank you for the understanding I was going to have. Of course, mine's up there already. The same question about how do you do that with the revocable permission? And so in essence, anybody can go on there. They just need to fill out the release or whatever. And then if they do something wrong, then you can revoke it. But pretty much it's automatic though. Is that your idea?
The revocable permission, that's basically it.
Yeah.
So I think that part of, making this safe and keeping it in good condition is having the right people, accessing it, which discourages the wrong people from accessing it. So I think that a system like this will do that effectively.
Well, we usually don't see open space with such small parcels.
Right.
When we think about like the size of parks, and we're talking about the west end of the county, 6 or 4 acres, 6 acres? 6.8 acres is actually fairly significant in terms of the size of parks on the west end of the county. So I understand where the issue came from, because you've got on the parcel to the northeast, somebody is attempting to build something on that parcel. And so I understand exactly how the issue could have came up in the first place.
Well, I'd say, the assessor's office responded quickly and I have nothing but good things to say about how they adjusted that once I explained the situation to them. So as far as I'm concerned, they handled it perfectly. What I'm trying to do here is to place this property in its proper category. And I think, to the best of my understanding, reading the requirements that are in the state law, it meets those criteria. And you would know also because you walked down it before. So.
I just have a clarifying question of
Yeah.
staff. In the open space, do you just post it, or what's the requirement say? Can you use a system like that? Is it just wide open, or can he? I think it's a great system. I think it would answer a lot of questions for a lot of landowners.
Sure, that is something that you as a board and the taxpayer decide on.
Okay.
I just make sure that his plan is given to us within the time frame, and I believe it's 12 months by the time it's approved. And then during subsequent inspections of the property, our appraisal staff just makes sure that if there's requirement for postings of signs, that they're still there, and that the appraisal staff understands that that is an open space parcel, and they are continuing to prove that they're can continue their classification.
Follow-up question. Didn't we have one of these either, I don't know, when I first started or right before I started, when I sat in the room? There was some, I call it a 20-acre parcel, but it was literally landlocked, that the person couldn't show where anybody would ever be able to access their property. But wasn't that a small parcel too, or do you remember what I'm talking about?
Was it above Lyle? Adjacent to like state ground, DNR ground?
There was nothing, it was all private property around it. With like 6 trees on it. I remember that. It was
I
a
don't
small
remember that one.
acreage, and I believe it was denied because there was no way for anybody from the public to access it. Without trespassing already on somebody else's.
I'd be interested to know what that parcel is, because it doesn't ring a bell to me.
I will try to think back and look at some notes and minutes, or like I said, it could have been before I actually sat here.
Okay.
It was just very in my head.
Mr. Anderson?
To sit with you.
Just so the citizens know, by being put into the open space classification, if he ever wanted to build a house on it or do anything else with it or change the use, he would then have to come out and he would have to pay the back taxes plus the interest on that for 7 years, correct?
For usually 1 acre of that. So if you would continue your agreement on the remaining portions, that would be up to you. If it would be 1 acre to be removed from that, and then they would have to pay the back.
But if you wanted to remove the whole
Yep.
thing, you would have to pay 7 years back taxes plus interest. Yeah. So I
Yes.
just wanted to make it clear for everyone.
Yes.
It is, I believe it is valued differently because we value open space differently. So the removal calculations would be done differently, but that is correct.
But it's
There's also-
essentially 50% of
Correct.
market.
The only instance in which I could see that being applicable would be if the existing house burned down. Because that's really the only good access to the property, and it would be advantageous to move the house further away from 141. But other than that, I can't see how you practically would do that.
Well, if you were to do that, likely you'd need to do a boundary line adjustment so that you can keep it on the parcel that it's currently on. And then the
Right.
part that your boundary line adjusting out would then get pulled out of the
Right.
system, which you'd still have to pay the 7 year back
Correct.
taxes.
Right.
Any other questions, Mr. Christie?
I do not have any other questions.
So is there any further public testimony from anyone online? So seeing none, we'll close the public hearing to further public testimony. Any further discussion by the board?
I would just say that, yes, I do see this as a very small parcel. And I hope this doesn't open us up to 1,000 different 6-acre parcels wanting to change classification. But based on where this is located, and the public access that it has, I can see where it qualifies, so I can find no reason to not allow.
Has there been any conversations with WashDOT? Because the access for this is going to be on that pullout, which makes from my perspective, a very big bonus for the public use because there is available parking. But has there been any conversation with WashDOT about creating a couple of parking spots there or just leaving it as is?
I haven't discussed that with them. It's a big pullout. I mean, it would accommodate, 5 or 6 cars easily.
God, I hope that many people aren't on your property at that one time.
No, so most of the people that are using that pullout are people who are going downhill towards the river. People that are going fishing or hunting or, engaged in some other sort of, or pulling out just to take a break and talk on the phone but it's a wide pullout. But as far as I know, there's probably no plan to expand, enhance, or diminish it, as far as I know.
Madam Chair, are you?
Yes, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to move this open space classification forward and direct staff to bring us back next week with is it a resolution?
Finding and facts.
Findings and facts regarding the support of this open space transfer under the enhancement to the value to the public of neighboring parks, forests, wildlife preserves, nature reservations or sanctuaries or other space, as well as the enhancement of the recreational opportunities, which are 2 of the key considerations for that.
I will second that very wordy motion.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Yeah, hearing none, the motion passes. So thank you very much. And you'll be receiving documents in the mail.
Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Good to meet you. That's very easy.
Okay, so we have next our planning department.
Okay, put my glasses on. So this is for the approval of boundary line adjustment BLA 2023-14 with the Delfield Family Trust. Boundary line adjustment BLA 2023-14 is proposal to adjust the common property line between parcels 03102314000504 and 03102314000600 off of Southwest Erie Road. The proposed boundary line adjustment is located within a portion of Section 23, Township 3, Range 10, Willamette, Meridian, Klickitat County in the White Salmon vicinity. The administrative review of the boundary line adjustment has been completed. Signatures have been obtained from Road, Health, Planning Departments, and the Treasurer's Office. All conditions attached to the preliminary approval have been met. If the road finds that it is in the public's interest to approve this boundary line adjustment, a motion will be needed to grant final approval of BLA 2023-14.
Questions?
Is it my eyes or is the house not on partially not on the property.
That's why
That-
the picture up there.
That was there prior to this project. This is something that has been noted as being aware of doing through the projects and that they have opted not to correct it. I think that might be a county right of way on the bottom part, and that was established prior to, the house is established prior to that. And so we can't ask them to move the house. So basically what this is basically kind of flipping, there was a small lot, a small portion of it to the north. And then this part was the south part was a small lot. And the rest of it was a big lot. So now it's got the small lot up to the north and the rest of it is the remaining big lot.
Yeah, this parcel looks like it's out in easement too.
Yes, and that was noted on the prior project as well as being something that neither wanted to address.
But currently, even if the parcel's in the easement, great, parcel's in the easement.
It's
If they go to try to build something on there, they're not gonna get a permit for
Nope.
anything hanging in the easement.
No, and they cannot get a replacement, like if that were to burn down, they can't place it in the same spot. They have to meet the current setbacks.
Now they have to get to 100-foot setback or whatever it is. from
Mhm.
the road.
Yep.
Okay, that answers my.
It's not an easement, it's an actual right of way going down there. So, I mean, we've got multiple instances of structures and right of ways throughout the county.
When was the original, do you know when the house was built, by the way? Not that it matters on my decision, just.
Not offhand,
Okay.
I don't. And Public Works did sign off on it for
Mm.
their portion of it.
The original short plat,
I'm not sure when the house was built.
the original short plat that created lot 4 there, that big one, was actually in 04, it looks like. 2000.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious if the house was like, 900 years before that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the house is there a long, long time. At least
Back
40 years.
Back when it was 100 acres, before it got split up.
Which interestingly enough, the house was not part of the original short plat.
Interesting. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing now unless somebody wants to look at my map more.
If anything, I think what this would do is if the house is ever just taken down or moved by this boundary line adjustment, it actually gives room for them to build the house further back. So I see it as a potential improvement on the property over the long run.
That was my take on it.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with it. It's not like we can make somebody move a house, nor would we want to. And technically, they're not asking for anything that's out of the ordinary, so I don't personally see any issues at all.
You ready for your motion, Madam Chair?
Please.
Madam Chair, we have before us boundary line adjustment BLA 2023-14. It's a proposal to adjust the common property line, and it's within the White Salmon vicinity on Ivy Road. The applicants are the Dellfield Family Trust. My motion is to approve.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Sir? I think we had one thing on the unfinished business and we moved it ahead before lunch. Miscellaneous reports and comments.
No, we handled the jail stuff. Town hall was on there so that we can
Mhm.
get to the reasoning why it was canceled, and you've already explained that earlier. So I'm good.
Mr. Anderson added Hood River Western Grace Quarrel. What was that?
We talked about
So
that.
we've taken care of that
No,
too.
no, the only one we have that I have left on the agenda is the discussion of legislative priorities.
Okay.
Let me pull up the right email.
I know, isn't that tidy and nice?
Okay, what we have is, oh, sorry. What we have is a request from Paul Jewell with Wasac for ideas for the legislative priorities before our LSC planning retreat in May. The proposals must be submitted by the end of today, Friday, April 19th. So I know we've had some discussion about this in the past. What, let's see, agenda sample. Policy step. There is the urban, rural, and all county priorities that I discussed before. The rural counties will get to put forward 2 priorities for the legislative session. And so I would like the concurrence of my seatmates to put forward at least 2 priorities by this Friday, so I can work on that this evening or this afternoon. My number 1 priority is dealing with the tax burden shift for green energy projects. And with, potentially pump storage company, with any future solar developments or wind developments. I think that is one of the priorities for in the counties. Preferably try to run it through the rural county side first, because there's still some more education to be done on the large counties. And I don't know if it touches enough of the big counties that they're going to consider it at all, but for the rural counties. And where does my seatmate sit on that?
I think that's a very good one. I agree. Dan, do you have?
Wherever they're willing to take it is where I would put it.
And do you have a second priority?
Well, I was going to talk to you guys about, we've had a lot of discussions, a lot of change here recently. What priority would you guys set for legislation that hopefully we have a chance of getting through in the next year? I would love your thoughts.
Unfortunately, all the legislation that I would like to see them do, Wasac's already working on. So, the state paying defense attorney costs, the mental health situation, making the states provide more training, more open days for jail deputies to actually be trained instead of waiting 2 years. All those things and more, I think have already kind of been addressed. So I don't know that I have anything new.
We're starting with a clean slate for the legislative priorities. All the things that have been worked on that, so these are the main priorities that we will actually put forward legislation and ask others to sponsor.
Then I could be easily convinced if you give me more ideas than what are floating through my head, but my second one would be for the state to change the rule on inmate medical.
A big one.
That is not being worked on to the legislative side. That's the 1115 that's already been determined and pilot projects, and it's actually technically comes from the feds.
I know that yes, it comes from the feds, but the state has the ability to change that timeline from 30 days to 90 days to that's the.
And so that will, the most recent update I have on that is there are 3 enrollment periods that the state of, that the healthcare authorities come up with. One will be July 2025. And there's so far, there's no limit on who can join it. And then September 2025 and then January of 2026 for that, in essence, pilot project is their time frame. So if they're already got it going, is that the one we want to push for, or is it the funding for the indigent defense that we know is going to continue to climb?
That and funding for the coroner for small rural counties. That's a problem for me.
I can get behind both of those. In what order, I don't know.
Yeah, both of those are
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
kind
mine.
of-
it's our biggest impact.
I would put number 2 and number 3 as whichever one the experts think is more palatable based on who's serving in office and what might be more palatable. I hate to miss out on something.
So how about this as an idea?
They're both equals in my book.
We put forward our number 1 as definitely the green energy tax burden shift. We put forward number 2 on the rural side as the coroner funding, because that's in essence, that's something that changed at the state level that is an unfunded mandate. And then number 3 is an all counties one for indigent defense, because that hits the big counties and the small counties.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, part of the green energy tax shift. I guess I would say I don't hold out a lot of hope that it won't be tweaked and manipulated into something that we wouldn't accept anyway. I do want to make sure that it is a voluntary program. That it isn't okay, we're gonna change the law and this is how it's done now. And they get to pay a pilt and it's 50% of what they would have paid and you have to take it. At least the old way was the county could opt into it or opt out of it. So I want to make sure whatever plan goes forward has that rationale. Because I mean, currently we can opt into it or opt out of it because technically to avoid the tax shift, all this board needs to do is not take the 1% new construction bump on the year the project goes into effect. And that alleviates the entire tax shift. So look it up. Because that is essentially the tax burden shift. Because so if I pay $1,000 now, green energy goes in, they pay 2 million, mine goes from 1,000 to 990, whatever. If I get shifted back that $10 later down the road, big deal, I'm still whole. I didn't have to pay more. The only more is if I end up having to pay the difference of the tax bump, the tax or the new construction bump. That's where the shift occurs.
I don't think you're taking into account the fact that for the last ever houses or buildings, she's not in here. They appreciate in value, whereas that would be depreciating. So you would still have that because of the appreciation.
Right, but that's where when the project first goes in, and sorry if I interrupted there. If my property tax is 1,000, when that project first goes in, it's gonna lower my rate. That eventually that shift that you're talking about, yes, will bring me back to 1,000. But it won't make me pay their share. The only part that makes me pay their share is if you take the new 1% new construction.
It's the the 1% is different than the new construction.
Right.
Yeah.
That's,
Two different
that's the
things.
part that actually creates and causes the shift. So that you can actually avoid the shift by not taking the new construction.
I think you'd
Look it up.
still
Look
get it in
look
the
up.
end. Or portion of it. You'd get less for certain.
That's been testimony before this board before, so. Spend some time.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, because we're gonna have long conversations about it, hopefully, because we're creating a little task force to work on it. So what you're asking for though is to make sure that it is opt-in, and should it be opt-in for the county or opt-in for the company?
Well, just like the last one, it needs to be opt-in for both. Because I would imagine, and I'm only guessing, you're gonna have, here's the way the state does it, but here's a backup option if you and the company want to enter into this one. Which is kind of what the last PILT thing was. If you want to enter into it, you can. Now, the difference for me lies, how big of a break are they gonna get? Versus how big is that tax shift really? Because we're really not talking about huge numbers. I mean, the general public thinks it's a huge number. It's not that huge of a number for these smaller things. For something like a pump storage, it could be an
It's
absolutely huge
big.
amount.
Yeah, it's super big.
So if I could see the county choosing on this $160 million project not to opt into a PILT type of a scenario, but or doing it on like a solar project, but not doing it on the pump storage, or vice versa, based on the size of the program and what that actual tax shift really is, dollar to dollar. So I want to make sure that there's the option and not. I'm afraid if it's a mandatory deal that the green energy companies are going to be paying enough campaign contributions to get a 50% tax, and now instead of a PILT, we're just subsidizing. Because they only have to pay half the taxes.
Right, but there's no there would be no tax shift because it would be a payment in lieu of taxes. So as you would say, it would never hit it in the first place.
But property owners would also not get the tax break as if that property was assessed at a real value.
So one of the,
either way, you're getting
yeah.
screwed.
One of the other options is with these large things to not consider them personal property, but to actually consider it as if it is a piece of the land or a building, just like anything, like buildings are considered, not personal property. And these things are definitely buildings, the size they are. And then you wouldn't have the depreciating value as if it was personal property on the depreciation schedule.
Yeah, but
So there's simple ways that there's easy things and complicated things, but I hear what you're saying and I will definitely take that.
Choices is what I want, because it could depend on the project and the dollar amount of the project on whether you would want to take it or not based off how whatever legislation is written. That's
Right.
kind of where I'm coming from. I don't like a one size fits all.
No, it'll be a longer process, and that's why we're starting now, so that I can come back and get, feedback from my seatmates before we make it a final. So the idea would be is we'll work on it for the next 2 or 3 months, and then we will start shopping for the legislators that may or may not be there, on who could possibly run it, on both sides and get bipartisan support so that we run something that could get through. So we start now so that when, December or January comes along, we've got it all done.
We're not giving the chair time to speak, but I'm sure she would look
I'm
up if she was
listening.
interested.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
listening to y'all. And I-
is last time Wasac was working with a few green energy companies to come up with the proposed legislation. Is Wasac planning on doing the same thing this time?
I think we're gonna work internally first, and then go out to, the companies after we've come up with our preferred alternative.
For
For the
comments or ideas on what we
Yes.
have proposed. Okay. I like that
rather
better
than letting it being driven by industry.
There you go. That's kind of the other concern I had. So, okay, it already seems like it's going in a better direction than the last one.
Well, I think the first time was a learning lesson for
Yeah.
certain.
Yeah, well, when I was testifying opposed to something the county helped create, yeah, no, that was kind of a little bit of a debacle.
Did you have your three?
I do, so long as I have consensus from the board.
I'm good with that.
Okay, thank you.
And by all means, same deal, you know what our big problems are. They're pretty much the same problems everybody else has. Nothing we want done is something that we're on an island and no other county wants it done. So if it seems like there's more push for something else, and you can deem that to be vested and you believe that we would be in agreement with that, feel free to make the change on the fly. It's kind of where I'm going with that too.
Wow, thank you.
But you have to come back and tell us what the change is, and then we would be, good job. Not what you do that for. You know what I mean? You have that capability. You know what is the issues in the county.
Well, I think, a lot of it's gonna come down to it is we're gonna choose two urban, which we don't have any conversation in or comment in. And we're gonna have two, all counties and two rural counties, and we'll have the most say on the rural side. And so, I mean, if it's negotiating, I'll definitely negotiate number one for the tax burden shift. Because, we've got the white paper out there, we've got a lot of things going for us in that direction, and that probably will have the largest impact on county taxpayers. That could be to the tune of millions of dollars over the course of years, whereas the corner position, we're looking at $250,000 to $350,000. Whereas the, indigent defense is currently looking at 220, about 350 a year, but with the new sentencing standards could become 700,000 a year. So
Right, but
that's kind of
where
what
I'm
I'm
coming
looking.
from. Our second priority may not even make anybody else's list. So if it looks like they're really trying to get items 4 and 5 that we necessarily did not discuss today, but you're well aware of, we've discussed in the past, you should know where the board's at and where you're gonna get unanimous consensus to be able to say, yes, okay, we as a county support that issue without actually coming back and asking us for permission first.
Sounds good.
Okay.
That's all I have.
I did have one other item that kind of came to my desk today, and it's working order for our staff. And there are a lot of emails that come into staff. They are overwhelmed. I mean, they work 3 times as hard.
Emails from
Just general public emails,
Okay.
and sometimes they have one source more than another that sends emails asking questions. It can become a little contentious. Sometimes they don't have the answer and they have to work through it, so it becomes a lot of work for them. So would it be appropriate, and I want your guys' both approval, because I feel like it's appropriate, that if at any time our staff feels burdened in one place or another from questions or emails, that they are able to just say, from here on out, please direct your questions directly to the county commissioners, or would you please put them in a public disclosure that stops question after question after question for them to answer.
So there's a difference. If it's a public disclosure request, that's,
Right.
I want to see the document you have right here. Give it to me.
specifically which document
Yep,
too.
yep. I want to see this right here. You're talking about people that are just asking questions.
Generalized questions.
Just
Over and over
generalized.
and over. And
question.
then you answer the question and then they have 3 more questions based on the answer to your
Yes.
question. And it just turns into revolving door
Right,
question.
and they can't get their work done.
So I think, thank you for bringing it. It's a very valid concern, and I thank you to staff for always answering all the questions you can, and I know that it's getting very tight. Time is getting tight, your availability is getting tight, and you can have one person who takes up 98% of the time, very easily. I have no issue with I think our staff is professional, they're dedicated, they know what they need to get done. And I have no problem with staff being, redirecting questions to the chair or to either of the seatmates, based on who they think might have the answers. I have no problem with staff saying, this is not a public records request. I don't have the time. I'm not going to answer this. If somebody is pushing you for an answer right now, you can easily say, I'm sorry, this will go to the, somewhere in my list of things to do. I'll get to this when I can. It may be a week. You are tasked with doing an enormous amount of work under exceedingly increasing pressures. Anything that we can do to help alleviate some of that, especially, if it's coming from, the old 80-20 rule, if it's coming from 20% of the people that can contact you and it's 80% of the work, you have to be able to spread that butter out to the rest of, the constituents.
Mr. Christopher, you have.
Clarification, when you're using the term staff, is that our staff or all county staff that works for the BoCC? Does that include the planning department or is that just our?
We were just talking about our staff today, the
we're
load
talking
that they
about our
carry.
staff.
Mhm.
So in my opinion, and I've already told staff this, both our staff and all employees that work for us, that I will always have their back. If they feel they are being bombarded with questions and they just don't have time and they need to work on something else and not get back to said question for a week, I'm not going to reprimand them for it down the road. If somebody is being hostile, aggressive, verbally abusive, I am not going to reprimand them for ignoring the emails or the questions from that person, as long as it's not an open public record request. That I will leave it up to them to decide when they have time and or what questions to answer, and that I will support their decision, whatever they come up with. But I've said that for all of our departments, not just this one, because the same issues that is happening to our direct staff is happening in many other departments under our jurisdiction.
So do we need to reach out to those other departments and make sure the directors understand how we feel about it and they can work with their people to say, the commissioner's got your back. We know that you're working hard and we're going to leave you the discernment. Would you like to do that? I was just addressing ours
No,
today.
well, I'm just,
So I guess, if I may, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I thought there was a break.
we're being so polite today.
Hey, I thought there was a break in it. I agree 100% with what you're saying. And I think we need to let staff, well, absolutely, staff know that we have their backs. But from my perspective, the bullying, the derogatory comments, the things that make staff not want to come to work, I am fine with this board passing a resolution or a directive or anything else that we need to do that lets staff know that it is when you encounter somebody who's treating you with that kind of disrespect, incivility, that you can direct that to an elected official who will respond to that, and you do not respond to it. We have to quit playing into that because it is one of the things that helps perpetuate a toxic workplace environment.
Well, and overwhelming their workload is.
Well, I would add that I've said this for some time now, and it may be something I shouldn't say publicly. But at this point, I can't get a resolution. So maybe it needs to be said publicly. I feel it's just a matter of time before one of our employees or our ex-employees files a claim against the county for not protecting our workers from harassment or verbal, mental, or emotional abuse. We have no policy in place. We have no written directive. that if they feel they are being harassed by an individual, that they can contact, boom, HR or the chairman of the board or whatever, to come up with a way to get a resolution to the problem. If the person is in person, standing at their office desk, screaming at them, where they feel threatened, they really don't have anything to do but hit the panic button. And when this happens over and over and over again by the same individuals, and the individuals change. I mean, there's new individual in the last 3 weeks, apparently, that we've never seen before. That has created this kind of an atmosphere that has staff downstairs scared. If we don't come up with some kind of policy in place where staff can take it up with HR reaches out to the person and says, hey, yo, first warning, you do it again, you're gonna get banned from the building. If we don't come up with something, we are opening ourselves to potential litigation from our employees. We need to come up with a who does what and when, and eventually that needs to be a banning from the building under this scenario so that we are covered for any lawsuits going forward, because it is in today's political environment and mental health environment, it's only a matter of time. So that's kind of where I'm at on that. Now, that might have put us in potential risk of litigation down the road for the employees, like, oh, look what he just said. And then if they don't do it,
Well,
whoops.
I think we do have some things in policies and procedures through human resources in a few places. And I would be willing, today we've kind of solved the problem and staff knows we support them and that you do have discernment. You'll do a good job. We trust them for it. You have all three of the board behind you. I would commit to working with KC and with Rob to look into what do we have on place and where do we need to go from there.
Do you not have enough on your plate already?
No, it's important.
Well,
Okay.
there's
And
three.
it's enough on
commissioners.
their plate right now
There's
too.
three
But
commissioners.
this is something, yes, and
The
I
other
would
two
like
can
your
do things
permission.
too.
Yes,
The other two can do stuff.
yes. But I believe we should move forward to check our policies and then shore up our staff to know that they are supported.
Well, I don't disagree, and I don't think you would handle it wrong or anything like that. I would just say that there's a reason there's a board of three, because the
Glad
workload,
for you to work on it.
the workload is large. You already have enough things. We still don't have a WSU contract.
Just helping you.
I'm aware.
Okay.
Um,
So you're committing to take that on? I
don't
would
care,
support you in that.
somebody.
I would support you in that.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, it's mainly just working with staff to see what opportunities or what is available. They would then be working with legal counsel to, again, give us ideas and what is available, and then come
What
back
we
and make a
need.
presentation to the board.
Yep.
The board would then choose what it wanted to do. So.
Mr. Anderson, I hear you
So
back there. There it is.
I'm trying to do a search of the employee.
We have
handbook.
harassment policies for employees, but we don't have harassment policies for the general public. Yeah, that's what we're missing in today's environment.
So was that Commissioner Christopher will sometime in May start this process?
At least start the conversation.
That's perfect.
Okay.
As long as we're moving forward, we're covered.
Great.
And maybe you get done with everything else on your plate and then you can have it back from me.
No, you've committed. I'm good. I think you'll do a good job at it.
Not doing anything but collecting information.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that our last item for the day?
No, that was a very important item and one I would have long time coming, so I'm very glad it happened.
Believe we have talked about it in the past. We have directed staff in the past. It's, but there is no written policy that I've seen.
I don't know that
we
the
need-
entire board has directed staff. I think we may have all had our own little conversations with staff, but I think from my talking to staff, they're not quite sure what the board publicly.
Maybe it was during a workshop, but I know we've had the board conversation multiple times over the course of 3 years.
Quite possibly.
I think we've been trying to land on what do you do with it? And where do you start?
What are the choices?
Mhm.
How do you handle? It's one thing for somebody just 9 million emails. What's this? I don't have time. There's a totally different approach. When you have somebody standing over your counter, pointing your fingers, you're in the hallway trying to go to the bathroom, you're pinned up against the wall, they're beating their finger on your chest.
Now that
What do you do with that? And, yeah, the current one we have downstairs, which I'm assuming you both know about. Maybe you don't. I don't know. We haven't talked about it.
Is there anything else?
I do not have anything other than I will not be on the radio on Thursday, and I already sent Julian a notice stating as much. And I kind of wish I'd have thought about it earlier so we could have rescheduled it for when I was here and then did a pre-recording maybe, but.
Mr. Anderson, do you have anything else today?
Oh, well, ready to make a motion when you're ready.
Yes, I'm ready.
Madam Chair, I would make a motion to adjourn the regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners, noting that there will be no workshop on April 18th, 2024. 2 of the 3 commissioners will likely be participating in the KLCK radio interview on April 18th at 8:05 a.m. I will also note that the Commissioner's office will be closing at 1 p.m. on May 1st and will remain closed on Thursday, May 2nd and Friday, May 3rd for a conference.
Clarification, staff has conferences that day? Yep.
Mhm.
I'll second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
No, other than learn lots of good stuff.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, we close our meeting for today. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you do it.